Today's episode of The Chop Shop is brought to you by our good folks over at Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code The Chop Shop at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using the code The Chop Shop.
Don't hold anything back. Got it?
Yeah, but I knew you were going to play this record.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
come on.
can feel you slipping.
Man, this record's crazy.
Go on.
Welcome to the Chop Shop. I'm Eddie James.
I'm telling you.
This joint is
Straight
crazy.
punch your mom in the face music.
Oh, yes. My brother from another mother, DJ React.
Yes, sir.
What up?
What's up, man?
Hey, man. This is a long time coming. I am so happy, man. This guy is one of... I say it all the time, but he is one of my favorites. Like, he is really one of my favorites. And there's no way to put it down where he's from. He's from everywhere. God damn it. Just the ultimate, the consummate professional. One of the illest producers. Multi-instrumentalist. What else, man? He is
Legendary Roots crew, man. What are we doing?
Yes. I was gonna say that
What are we
lastly.
talking about right now?
Yeah. So I was gonna say it lastly, but man, like, fuck it, God damn it, man. We got
Motherfucking Stro Elliot is here.
yes,
tonight.
yes,
Yes, sir.
my favorite. That's what
What's
up,
up,
man.
man? Appreciate you.
What up, man? Appreciate y'all for having me, man.
I'm not
Appreciate
lying. This is straight kick your sister in the face music. Like,
I knew you were gonna play
first time
that
I heard
record.
this shit. Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, I love it.
This was originally made literally for just kind of one of my homeboys.
Oh, word. Okay.
Yeah, then I just decided to put it out. Maybe it might have been one of the joints I played, and Shoes heard it and was like, "Yeah, we putting that out."
Yeah.
Shout out to House Shoes, man.
No, I knew you. I knew React was gonna play that because I like the Plush records that you did.
Word.
Like the Come On Coltrane.
Oh, yeah,
Sure.
of course, man.
The Virginia Woolf stuff. Like all the But that's React, BX. Punch you in the face. He like that. The hard knock pause shit. So I appreciate you, Stro, man. It's been a long time coming. I've followed your career early on. It's funny because the first joint I ever heard, because we're DJs, React and myself, and obviously the first joint that I ever heard was the Solar Stro record.
Word.
Yeah.
Which will live forever.
Apparently, like I can't seem to, not that I want to escape it or run from it, but it's like I feel like on like every 2 years since it's been made, like it kind of like crawls out from the grave I thought I put it in and just and haunts the entire neighborhood.
Oh, man.
The constant.
Yeah,
I can only
yeah,
imagine
literally.
how you felt when you actually made the record. You know what I'm saying? Because
Honestly, it was kind of a blur because it was a part of LA. In LA, they had for a short period of time they had this thing at the Root Down before my man Miles passed, where they just used to kind of have these beat battles, and the more legendary ones is like Will I Am versus who was it? Was it Ono or like Chemist or like it was? They had these crazy pairings, and the one they had a hard time with when they asked me to do it, but pairing me up with somebody because I think initially it was going to be like Nicolay or somebody, and like they couldn't make scheduling, they couldn't make stuff happen, so they ended up putting me up against my guy Newman from a crew called Giant Panda, and
he took the L.
And it was no. It was unfortunately for my guy Newman, he was using that faulty Insonic shit,
Oh, okay.
And this is the thing. I was too, but I was like, ain't no way I'm doing a show with this being like the main brain. Right. So I had an MPC 1000 that was kind of controlling everything to make sure everything kind of ran smoothly. But no, I made 4 joints. There was a Michael Jackson joint, a Marvin Gaye joint. There was a joint, Cardigans joint, and I think I'm forgetting one. And then the Soul Stro joint was all a part of these 4 beats I made over the course of like a week. Cause I was like, all right, I guess I'm doing this beat battle. Let me throw together like 4 or 5 joints. And that was one of them.
Man, well, yo, was it all right? So the Marvin joints, like, was it either Marvin's Mood or the
Turn on some Marvin, man?
Yeah, Turn on some Marvin.
Yeah, it was Turn on some Marvin. Yeah.
Yes.
He took the L quick as soon as you put that.
Oh, man.
My mama said to me, game over. With all due respect to the homie, but come on, man. I mean,
it was, man, listen, it was fun. You know, it was dope.
Yeah.
It was dope because I knew Newman. Like we had toured a lot together.
Yeah.
You know, both of our crews toured together. And so, you know, it was all love. There was a lot of love in the place, a lot of people there. I think actually, that was the first time I met Madlib. Madlib was in the spot. And you know, he don't say much. So it was just like homie introduced me, maybe J Rock or whatever. He's just like,
yeah.
Yo. And he bounced, and I was like,
he disappeared like Prince and shit. Like
exactly. And you know, there's the underground tunnel made of records that he crawled his way through.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I heard that Madlib is like one of those dudes that's super like low key type. Like.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've only met him a couple times, but every time I've seen him out, like he's in the cut. He ain't saying much. You know, maybe he came with somebody, maybe he didn't, and then he would just be gone. Like all of a sudden, you're like.
When I go to my tier producers, man, and just I have like a block of producers, man, and you're in there, like for real, man. I'm nobody, but I know I like to think that I know some music, man, and you are definitely in there with Madlib and all of them, man. Dilla, Tall Black, Black Milk, you know, like all those guys, man. Like and there's so many producers, man, that just don't. I mean, like heads know Stro Elliot. But I feel like, man, like sometimes that you, like I said it to Spinner too, he's in it. He's in that category. Like you guys are like the most, you know, underrated producers ever, man. Like all you have to do is play your joints and it's just automatic, man. So, I mean, salute to you, man. Like I truly think that you really are in that, man. So, you know, you were talking about your early days, and I think in the intro I said that, you know, you were from all over. But your earlier days with before I even heard Soul Stro, I heard actually not before. I heard Soul Stro, and then I found out that you were in a group called the Percussions. And I think the first joint I heard was Virginia Wolf.
Oh, you talking about? It was like an exclusive, it was like a short.
Yes.
We released. Yeah, was it To the Moon and Back?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So when I heard To the Moon and Back, I was like, "Ooh, this is crazy," and I was like, "He on the mic too." And then I believe somebody told me that, like, yeah, and Virginia Wolf, like he's singing too.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, the story of that EP or whatever was, you know, we had come out with an album in 2013. That was our last album. And, but what we were doing, because we were still planning on putting another album out after that, was that we were just kind of putting out these loosies. Like, it was like, all right, just every month we'll put out something. And usually the protocol was I'd make a beat or Jay would give me a concept or whatever. I'd make the beat. Right. Either he would have just write to it or we'd both write to it. And, so yeah, most of those are just kind of like The Moon and Back was literally like there was a homeboy, that we knew, that wanted a love song to his girl. So we're like, all right, we'll make a song, you know, whatever. Yeah. We had him tell us about his girl and their whole relationship or whatever. And that's kind of how that whole song came together.
Was like, yeah, fuck that
bitch. I don't know if they lasted, but
I hope so, man, because you know, like, listen, man, that's the beautiful thing about music too, man. Like, because, you know, you as a songwriter as well and an MC, so many topics you can pick up on, you know what I'm saying? Like, so your friend hits you with like this and we'll make a record about that. Like, but man, that was another record, man. And I was just like, man, all right. So I went down a whole wormhole of Stro joints. And then, at the old farm,
Stro's Beat Farm.
The Beat Farm.
Yeah.
Stupid.
I was living in Connecticut when I heard that shit. Right after I left. Yeah, I remember. EJ, you put me on, bro. You put me onto that shit.
I did. Yeah, I was like, man. I was like, this dude right here. I don't even think it was Soul to Stro first. I think
I did a DJ battle for Smirnoff.
Yeah.
In where the fuck was it? Norwalk.
We were in Norwalk.
It was in Norwalk, and I used Go Hand Attack. That was like the intro shit. Yeah.
No, the Beat Farm was interesting. That kind of set everything off for me because before that, I wasn't. The thing about the percussions is that it was an all-inclusive, like, even the credits on the album just say produced by the percussion. So there was no separation of like who did what. Right. So people just knew me as being a part of this group without specifically knowing what I did.
Yeah.
So, it got to a period where I was trying to work out in LA as a producer. Yeah. And I remember my guy, DJ Inca One out in LA, he has an event called Boombox that he does every month.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was instigating. He got on the phone. He's like, bro, what are you doing? He's like, I know you sitting on heat. I know you sitting on mad heat. Yeah. And I'm watching all these other producers come out. They come out to my event. They come to these other events. They just playing all this fire. And I'm going, yo, I got my mans. I know he's chilling at the crib, not doing shit, or whatever. Like, just, what are you doing? And I'm like, I got some. He's like, I'll tell you what. He just send me a folder of stuff. I'll curate it. I'll put it together or whatever. Yeah. And so, I started running through joints that I had laying around, and I sent him everything, and he picked probably the majority of everything that's that ended up on the Beat Farm album.
Yeah.
I took that, and then of course he was like, "Well, you got to put the Soul to Stro joint in there. You got to put, there's a couple of joints that he made me add."
Right.
And then I kind of sequenced it, and and just kind of threw it together and put it up on Bandcamp, and I think that might have been the thing that Shoes heard for the first time. Shoes, I think, might tell her that he heard some other things before that, but that was like, if that didn't exist, there wasn't like a collection of shit that I did that wasn't like on a Pros album.
Right.
Before that one. So that one kind of set a lot of things in motion.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to Shoes. We have a part 2 with House Shoes. So yeah, actually next week. So we'll ask him about that because we didn't get a chance.
Word.
There was so much material on him.
Oh yeah.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Talk about I want to know about we all have a janky equipment story, like how we got started. I know that you played multiple instruments, drums, keys. I believe it said was it trumpet too as well?
Trumpet was my first instrument. Yeah.
Okay.
I got, I begged my parents to play anything around, what was this, maybe 6th, 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And, instantly the drums was out. Pops wasn't having the drums.
Right. He was like, I'm trying to get some motherfucking sleep.
And listen, and we had because they knew I was going to be practicing in the garage. This is Riverside, California at the time. So it was like,
Yeah.
So drums was out. Saxophone was too expensive.
Trust me, yo. Yeah. Oh man, that's funny, man. React. He just brought like some funny shit. Like,
here's a recorder, son.
Right. Here's the recorder they give you in school, motherfucker. Like, how much the flute cost? Man. Can we rent it?
But listen, they got me like a recorder, I think, for Christmas, even though they would ultimately give me a trumpet, but they also got me like a recorder for Christmas. Uh-huh. And I wore that joint out. It was like, listen, man, it's a little bootleg saxophone. I'll take it.
Like it's like trying to play just the two of us and shit.
Yeah, man, I was trying to play everything, man. Listen.
Oh man,
I was playing nothing but a G thing on that piece. I was playing everything.
Can you imagine? That's fucking funny.
But now the trumpet was my first instrument. I played pretty much all through middle school and a little bit in high school. We moved when I was in like 9th grade. Yeah, I started high school in Germany. And when I got there, they didn't have my paperwork, so they didn't know what I played. And so I basically told them, I was like, well, I play drums. And they were like, okay, I guess you're a drummer. And so, I was a drummer in the band for like, I want to say like a month or two before they got like my papers. And it's like, says here you were, not only that you were a trumpet player, but you were like a first chair trumpet player. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And so, because, and especially at that band in Germany, there was like, it felt like 20 trumpet players. And it was like, it's like, they don't need me. Like, they got 20 of y'all. Like, I want to play drums.
But there was nobody on. It was like some straight up. You came in doing a. I keep thinking about the Dave Chappelle, John Mayer, Questlove shit in the barbershop, how they react to drums. Niggas always loving the drums type shit, So like, I could just picture a young Stro going to Germany. He was like, what instrument? I want to play drums because automatically I know I'm going to outplay with some funky shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, like, did you have the chops already on drums?
Well, it was a weird setup because, it was concert band stuff. So it was like, there was a couple snares set up and like, whatever. I felt like it took them a while to get like a full drum kit set up. And when they did get one set up, because, it's the military. So, kids are in and out. You know what I'm saying? If your parents got their orders, like, so I felt like the drum section dwindled quickly. Like all of a sudden it was like me and probably 3 other players back there. And 2 of which kind of like didn't really want to be there. Like it was just maybe like a credit, you know what I'm saying? So for the band teacher, like, he was like, all right, well, it'd be really nice if you could play all these parts together, meaning, the drum kit. He's like, can you do that? And I had never played drum kit before in my life. But I sat down kind of like after class and tried to figure it out. The next day he came in and he gave me this piece or whatever. And they filled in on the other stuff just fine or whatever, but I kind of held down kind of like, the majority of it for a little bit or whatever. But, and especially during like football games, like, they would have the drum kit set up and like, it was interesting.
Football, like soccer or football?
Football. Like, it was, we played American football on base.
Oh, okay. It was funny. I had a funny thought too. I thought, cause kids were leaving, you were talking about, drummers were leaving or kids were leaving. I thought you meant like they were taking like their pieces of equipment, like, like, all right, this snare or this kick drum belongs to me.
Nah. None of that. Just your parents got your orders and you was out.
Yeah, man. So you play multi-instruments. Excuse me. What was the thing that got your attention to hip hop? And I want my shit to sound like that. You know what I'm saying? I only ask that because when I listened to the early percussion records, the percussions, it felt like it was live instrumentation, right? Right. What were the Roots? Because you're a member of the Roots. Were the Roots inspirations early on?
No, I mean my introduction to the Roots it didn't really happen until I want to say like my last couple of years of high school.
Okay.
So before then, well, this was the thing, and I tell the story all the time. My understanding of what production was because, back then you didn't have YouTube videos and social media where you could watch people make beats. There wasn't like, there wasn't a rhythm roulette where you could watch Ninth Wonder throw together 4 or 5 beats on the spot. So you didn't see people's process. You didn't know
how modest he was, because he had one of the dopest
rhythm roulettes.
Yes,
too. I know.
I mean,
this
is why we love you.
But listen, Ninth is undeniable. We talk about it all the time, because Ninth will get, people in his inbox say, oh, people talking about, such and such as or whatever. And I'm like, listen, man, yours is goated for a reason,
Yeah.
But no, I didn't know people's process. So my understanding, and I tell people this all the time, the reason that I do anything finger drumming related is because I assumed, especially when you listen to They Reminisce Over You, that's how Pete Rock was programming drums.
Yeah.
I thought that he was programming it live. And so when I heard it, I was going, oh, I need to learn how to play drums on, for me, it was keys at the time because I didn't have any pads.
Okay.
I need to learn how to program live, because you listen to how much Pete's drums were moving during those records and you go, that's not just a sequencer. Like, it feels like he's, come to find out it was a sequencer, but
yeah. And it was also Say It Loud, Black and, Say It Loud. The sample. Like, yeah.
But I didn't know that. So, I taught myself to kind of learn to play drums on first keys and pads. And then also, with all the instrumentation, he had such dope records that my pops didn't have. And I'm going like, okay, so he must have played that. That was my assumption. I'm going like, I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, at that point I had never heard Roy Ayers Searching. So I'm going, okay, he must have played that. That must be, he got either a keyboard player or he played it. So I need to learn how to play at least something a little bit, to be able to at least accompany whatever I might sample. So my understanding from the beginning is that everybody was sampling, everybody was programming drums live, and that everybody was playing something along with the samples to make it sound full,
Yeah. Anybody in your family musicians?
No.
Okay.
No, I was like, pretty much my entire family didn't know what to do with me because I was this kid that was constantly in record collections. My grandpa, God rest his soul, was probably the main, from being pretty little. And I think some of that goes back to the fact that my grandfather always wanted a musician in the family.
Yeah.
And so I think he was just super excited to have any kid that was excited about music, period, which I was.
Right.
So anytime we came home to visit my grandparents, like, he had something for me, whether it was, a chunk of his record collection, which would include, a bunch of like Dizzy, Eddie Harris, like a bunch of old jazz records.
Yeah.
But sometimes he would just give me an instrument. Like, he bought me this little keyboard once. He bought me this thing that my friends would call like the G whistle. And all it was like, it was this toy saxophone, but it had this portamento slide feature on it. And so imagine, like I said before, I'm playing like nothing but a G thing on the recorder. It really sounded like it when I had this G whistle. So now I'm going, yo, okay, bet. But
you're walking around the street like,
man, listen, getting on people's nerves, man. My brother wanted to kill me.
And then you said, around, yo, 1, 2, 3 to the.
Man, listen. But yeah, like, he gave me a guitar, his old guitar, just anything music related. He would always, and this goes back to the beginning. He tells a story of buying me like this little like Mickey Mouse organ when I was little. And it came with this little booklet, and he said he walked into the room and I was playing, probably something like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And he said I was playing it without reading the book. So it was like, kind of like by ear. And he was like, we got a musician in the family. So, every time I saw him after that, he was always giving me something. And I think, all the way up until he passed, like, I think he was, even if my parents didn't see it, he was the one that saw it in me.
That's fine.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I noticed too, like you said prior to, like, and I didn't want to interrupt you, because I have a habit of interrupting people.
You good?
It's all right. Most kids do not say, I want to be in a band. well, at least in my neighborhood growing up, either you're an athlete, you're just an athlete. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The people that I grew up with that had to play instruments, they had to play instruments because their parents played the instruments, you know. So
Right.
I find it really dope that you know, when you're in school, you're like, yeah, I want to be in a band. You know?
Word. Yeah.
You
I mean, low key, I didn't really even know that existed. You know, I didn't know that schools, you know, had bands, period. I happened to run into a friend who was, I think he was lugging his horn home or something. Like he had it on top of his bike and I was like, what is that?
Tuba.
Yeah, it was a bigger instrument. Yeah.
It's fucking tubas.
Yeah. And I'm going like, yo,
Right.
like you just, there's easier ways to transport a body, B. What you doing? Like,
Yeah.
Like,
Either a big instrument like the tuba or the trombone and shit. Like
Yeah.
them shits was always like,
yeah, it might have, I think it was a trombone actually, but,
right.
but yeah, he told me, he's like, yeah, I'm in band. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, the school has like a band, like you could join the band, you get an instrument. I'm going, yo, how come nobody like So, you know, the very next day I went in, I was just kind of asking around. I was like asking teachers, like, yo, how do I, you know, whatever. And they put me in touch with, you know, the band teacher. And she was like, well, you know, you can't start till next semester, but, you know, decide what instrument you want to play and boom.
That's fire. Man, that is fire, man. I mean, I love hearing about musicians coming in and then into the hip hop because that's how it actually started. But to be honest, you know, like when you hear guys like Larry Smith, like nobody ever talks about Larry Smith, man. Like, it angers me that Larry Smith was the truth, man, and he was a musician, and he just so happened to know how to program drums, and he played bass, and he played everything. He worked with Houdini, One Love, Friends, Run DMC, smash record hits, man. Like, you know, he didn't come in the DJ route like most of us do, you know. So I love hearing about that. You know, so I mean, with that being said, like, we'll get back to your early influences too, even before actually drum programming, because you're really good at it. And I want to say something too. Right? This is what I want to say.
I was waiting for it. Go ahead.
He already knows, man.
Yeah, I was waiting for it.
I had said, and this guy React used to send me in the inbox finger drummers, man. And I said, if you fucking send me another fucking finger drummer, I don't care if it's Arab or Jay, whatever his fucking name is, or whoever, I hated finger drumming. I said,
That's what you said.
Exactly. Do not send me this shit, man. And I was for real, right, React?
100%.
I was like, stop. Like, I said, the only motherfucker that I want to hear on drums live, and what I say?
Stro Elliot.
I said Stro.
Oh, man.
Because it just felt like, I just don't like it. Like when, like, I don't,
he
man.
likes he likes the 64, the small 64 pad setup, and the way, you know, like
you get busy,
the way it's laid out. As
yeah, it just looks like
pads.
Yeah, it's just like, and they usually have like a loud sample, you know, and it's just like,
right,
and their fingers is moving like crazy. I'm sorry, like I respect it. I respect it.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
That wasn't it. Listen, and I have a fond respect because we had the young boy, JT. Oh my God.
Yeah. Beats by JT.
Beats by JT, man. He would love it, man, because I know he admires you, Stro. Beats by JT he's a young kid, about 17, maybe 18 years old, 17 years old. And I've known him since he was 15, 14. But he finger drums, and I told him I don't like this shit. That's the only person that I'm like the only goat in finger drumming. Like Barry Sanders' father told him, I don't care how well you run the football, Jim Brown is the greatest. I feel the same way, because I feel that you're the greatest when it comes to that, because it's just it's effortlessly, and you just look like it looks comfortable. It's just
Well, the push is comfortable. I think
the push is comfortable, yeah. Like, because I mean, like I said, I started playing drums on keyboards.
Oh my god!
And it was, I didn't have anything else. I was like, all right, I got this keyboard here, they're drums,
right?
And the very first piece of musical equipment I had was a Yamaha PSR 400. If you Google this thing, it is a toy, basically. It doesn't sample. There's no real sequencer in it. There's all stock kind of cheesy sounds, but I loved it. It was my first instrument. You know what I'm saying? But the way that the drums were set up on it.
You said the Yamaha what? Yamaha?
Yamaha PSR 400.
PSR. Oh, I see it. Oh, man, look at this thing.
Yeah, it's a relic. But, I couldn't have been happier. I begged my mom for that for Christmas. They made a deal with us, and they were like, if you get nothing below like a C, whatever you want. And
C's get degrees.
Listen, but hey, she said, but I feel like my mom's and them or my parents made that deal because they knew I was going to ask for something expensive. So they were like, all right, you can't, this isn't a C gift. Like you gonna ask for something expensive, that means all A's and B's on your report card. And so, because it was between that or turntables. Like, I was in and out of these shops, after school every day looking at these turntables going like, yo, either these turntables is coming home or this keyboard is coming. Like one of these bad boys I'm gonna have it for Christmas,
Yeah. Were you into DJing by that time? I mean, did you?
I mean, I didn't know anything about DJing. I mean, I was just kind of guessing. I'm going, this is me watching Yo MTV Raps and Rap City going like, all right, Pete Rock got turntables, Primo got turntables, like everybody I know got turntables. You must need turntables to make beats. You know what I'm saying? So that was just the way, it was a tool that I thought you needed to be able to do this. And so, the keyboard went out. I wonder if the keyboard went out just because my pops didn't want me to get any ideas with his records, but
right.
But I was super excited. I mean, come Christmas morning, I'm unboxing that thing, and
this is nice looking. Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
Yeah. Hold on.
But like,
how about this?
Is that somebody playing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all right. I mean, listen, man.
No, but it was good for me to have something. It was good for me to have something to learn how to play keys a little bit. And it was my first kind of real ghetto production, because what I would do, everybody made pause, stop, record tapes, right?
Hell yeah, pause tapes. Yeah.
So my brother for Christmas that same year got like this double deck, like situation, like this Sanyo, whatever, boombox, whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, it's probably not what brand it was, but it had a mic input in the back, or had a line in input in the back. So what I would do, I would make the pause, stop mixtapes.
Yeah.
And then on one of the passes, I would play live over the loop.
Oh.
And have it come in through the back. So
That's
I basically
gangsta.
and I would go back and forth and like add a bass line, add like whatever, like add extra drums. So it was like a bootleg 4-track setup.
Yo, that's gangster. Like that's a first React, right?
Yeah, I never heard that before. That's crazy.
Like we usually we come from like, I know React. Well, he's a little bit younger than me, but he still had to go through those things too, where we put shit through a line and just
of course,
keep doing it right. But we used to do our shit with just, with turntables, you know what I'm saying? Like we would run the record first, or either the instrumental or a drum machine through a line of the mixer, and then record that first, and then over. But man, like we had a lot of people come on there, and come on this show, and you're like, he is the first person, right?
Nah, no one's ever said that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Listen, man, it was by any means necessary. Like I said, I didn't come from a musical family, so there wasn't this book for me to study in terms of how to produce and how to make music. Right. I was just guessing. It was me and my imagination, whatever I had at my disposal. And, like I said, the keyboard was the big thing. It was like, all right, I got this official instrument.
Right.
I was already making the pause stop tapes or whatever. So it was like, all right, the drums in here are cheesy. So I would love to be able to at least use like drum loops, from the pause stop tapes, and then just play shit over the top of them. So, that was after maybe like a couple nights of just kind of experimenting, and was like, oh, I could go this route. You know what I mean? So
predating what years? Because I'm very interested to know. Ooh.
Let's see. This was high school. This was early 90s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, early 90s.
Okay. Yeah. Well, man, man, this is crazy.
Listen, man, like it was, I was determined. I was like, I got it, because like I said, I'm sitting, I'm watching Yo MTV Raps and Rhapsody, and I'm hearing all this dope shit. I'm going, yo, like I want in. How do I do this? How do I begin? I want to start, I know it's not going to be great at first. Nobody starts off and they shit is dope off top, but I didn't know anybody with any real equipment, so I had to just do, work with what I had.
I'm glad you said that, because when I, when I think about my early, days of doing music, because I graduated out of high school in '89, so I think I first started making beats in '90. So we had some janky ass equipment, but I always had a template. Like when I say a template, like benchmark guys like Marley Marl, Larry Smith, but Larry Smith was playing. He wasn't sampling. So I would say Marley Marl, because it was the first time I heard, just things being looped, and there were records that we had, because I had the super disco breaks, and I had the breaks with Substitution and Ashley's Rose Clip and all those records. So I knew the records, but the whole sampling thing, Marley Marl. So I was just like, man, all right, so what are they doing? So when I think about what you're saying, like starting early on, I know you had keyboard, you had the drums in the box on this keyboard, right? Or were you sampling, or were you were not sampling?
I was just with the pause stop tapes. That was the only way I was able to sample. So you would run.
All right, so you were run. He was
doing pause tapes with breaks and drums, and then playing
and then
over
adding on over it. Right. Okay,
yeah.
Right.
I was trying sometimes I would go the other route. Like I would loop. I would create some kind of like loop, whether it was horns or keys or whatever,
right?
And then try my best to try to make a kit sound cool on that board, which was near impossible. But
right.
because all the way around, I had a bunch of dope drums and stuff and breaks that I always wanted to use, but I also had all these other loops and stuff that I wanted to use as well. So I was like, all right, I can't necessarily, layer any samples, but so it's always going to be one or the other. You see the drums or, whatever. So, I tried sometimes to loop some stuff up and play drums over it, but that keyboard was just, like I said, a toy.
Right. What were you thinking about at that time? Because you were drumming at the time too. Like you were a drummer. Were you thinking about live recording the live instrumentation at the time? Like
if I had a drum kit in the house, that would have been the case. But I didn't bring those drums home.
Yeah. What were you thinking about it though? Like, man, like if I could just play this shit out, like.
I think the closest that I got was I was gonna try to record the drums at school. I was gonna try to figure out a way, but there just wasn't a way for me to do it.
That shit would have been dope if it was it would be. Now, if you think about it now, because everybody's looking for like a dirty sound or a vintage sound, it would have been crazy.
Except for the fact that I had no idea how to mic drums or anything. It would have been a mess. Yeah.
man. I mean, were you? Did you know about like Stubblefield and all those guys? Like, did you were you on to like James Brown shit like that, or early or even just early producers like actually I can scratch that, like your early producer heroes are who
in terms of hip hop or just
in general.
Yeah, in general.
Just in general?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, I grew up on Quincy Jones' The Dude album. My pops would play that record constantly. And the dope thing about my father's record collection was it wasn't the biggest record collection, but he had enough of a little bit of everything. Like it was mostly soul and jazz and R&B.
Yep.
But he would have one Led Zeppelin record. He would have one Carole King record. He would have one. You know what I'm saying? Like
Carly
he would have
Simon
one Beatles
joint,
record.
right? Or,
John. He would have one. And that, for me, that was enough because I was always in those records where I would go, okay, I've heard this Earth, Wind and Fire. I've heard this Curtis Mayfield. What's this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I would listen to it and be like, oh, it's a band called Chicago. It's kind of crazy. It's a lot of horns. Like that's, whatever.
Stupid, right? Yeah.
So, that was enough for me to go off on my own. Even though he would have one record, I would go off and look for every other record that they made. You know what I mean? So that was kind of my best introduction to different genres as well.
I'm glad you brought that record up. I'm glad you brought the Dude up because I remember buying that record and I played I Know Carita a million times, bro.
Word.
I didn't listen to 100 100 Ways and all the rest of the fire records on that album. I Know Carita was for whatever reason, bro. And I knew about the Brothers Johnson, and I was, I wanted to be Lewis. But I didn't play no instruments, so I had the broom and I was just like, I was like, fuck it.
Word.
You know what one of my favorite smells is in the world? Old fucking dusty
old records.
Vinyl sleeves.
We had a neighbor when I lived in Riverside, California. This was pre-keyboards. I was maybe making pause stop tapes, but we had a neighbor named Cliff. Cliff was actually the one who convinced me to play horn because he played trumpet.
Yeah.
But he was always playing in his garage. Like he would sometimes leave his garage door open, and I would hear him play, and I would come over and listen to him play. But his entire garage wall was lined with records. And it was the best smell. It was the best view
ever.
And I used to just look through those records and like the smell of it and the whole vibe of it and everything. And that set me off more than anything. It was just like, okay, he plays trumpet. He got a wall full of records. I like the smell. I like everything about this. I want to be this.
So you were talking about rating your dad's record collection. See, now I'm Italian. I'm Italian American from the Bronx, so
he's a VIP, very Italian person.
He calls me a VIP, very Italian person. Whatever.
I got this much Italian in me, so I can relate a little bit.
Ooh, you gotta pause that one, bro.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Got that much in you.
Let me rephrase that. On my mother's side is Italian blood.
There we go.
That exists within my lineage.
I know, right? You gotta explain stuff like that, right?
When I rated my dad's vinyl collection, this is what I found here.
Hey, listen, man.
Yeah, some shit on that.
Man. There's some sleepers. There's like a couple drum fills.
Hey, but no, real talk. Like I think we brought this up with somebody else too. Like, when you watch the movie of Rocky,
there's some shit in there.
Like they had like a bootleg version of Summer Madness on that shit. He was in his studio apartment, just sitting there like,
I got another.
My life sucks, and that shit.
Here's another Italian
Disco Italiano.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm gonna put it on one day. See what the fuck is on it. I have no
I know
idea.
what it sounds like. It sounds like wind up.
Cut it out. Cut it out.
You can't say nothing about mine because React is an ill DJ. Like,
Okay.
Word.
No, we're not. Yo, I'm
Okay.
telling you right.
I'm all right.
I'm telling you right now. Superior
Word.
DJ. Yeah, he gets busy.
I appreciate it, but you know.
Yeah.
Word.
So you're looking on. Were you the kid that looked on those records, like the Quincy Jones records? Say, okay, he produced it, and were you looking on the credits like, okay, this Louis, the President Johnson there's everybody on these records? Were you that kind of kid too, as well? Like,
Kind of, yeah. Like I would at least be curious because pretty early on I recognized like some of the dots that would connect. Like I realized that Quincy Jones, like you mentioned the brothers Johnson, like that dot connected. I was like, okay, they all kind of work together. I also realized Quincy Jones worked on some Shaka Khan records, and so like you start connecting the dots like a little bit in that way, because you would start to feel like some of these records sound like they have some of these other people playing on them. You know what I mean? Like, and so once that starts happening, you start going like, oh, okay, so they all know each other. They were in this band together, blah blah blah, or at least this person did production on this record, or at least played on this record. And, you start connecting the dots that way. So,
how crazy is that like you just said that, like with all the producers and everything. Then you got a guy like George Clayton, who might be the greatest, like one of the greatest producers or moguls, or he was the guy who completely got over on record labels. Like he had 5 different bands and they were on different labels. You know what I'm saying? There was Funkadelic on Warner Brothers. There was, he had Parliament on Casablanca, and there was Brides of Funkenstein on, and there was
Parlet,
right. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it was the same band. Yeah. So I mean, seriously, it might be the most gangster shit I've ever heard of, like for real.
No, easily. I mean, you look at that entire outfit, and then to take them all out on the road, and you could play any of the records. Like is kind of genius.
Yeah, man. So you say Quincy Jones. So moving into who else too? Like hit some hip hop producers like early on.
Well, I mean, I was a fan of, without knowing it, like I said, because I would be in the liner notes a little bit. So Quincy Jones was one. I was a fan of anything Mizell Brothers, because Pops was always playing Donald Byrd and stuff like that. And then I think, I think I was, because, I was big, I was into just, the record itself, the way that a record looked. Mm-hmm. So, I remember being like really loving the way that like kind of like weird triangle kind of pizza slice, like Gordy situation that went across like Rick James records. Yeah. And I was like, it's supposed to be Motown, but it just says Gordy and it's that little triangle. Yeah. So the logos were a big thing for me. And one of my favorite logos was the CTI logos, was just that little box with the CTI. So, and I didn't understand until much later that stood for Creed Taylor, which, and all of his records kind of sound the same. So, so all of that stuff, and then everything after that, it gets into, like, my hip hop origins.
Speak about that. Like who? Like,
well, the hip hop origins. I mean, listen. I mean, if I'm going off of, when I first started really paying attention to who was doing what. Yeah. We all listen to Run DMC. We all listen to, there's the staples and the people that you listen to early on. But I think when I first started really paying attention to who was doing what in terms of production, I lived on the West Coast. I was in LA. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first time that I heard Digital Underground's Do What You Like on the radio. I was like, how the fuck do you make drums like that? Like, what is that? Because it started like if I don't, you know how the record starts with that boom, cat, boom, boom, boom,
Yes.
cat, boom. And I'm going, what is that? A kick? Is that somebody breathing heavy? Like, what is that? I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time I was researching extensively. I'm like, who is in this group? Who are the producers? How do you make that? So that's kind of for me where it started in terms of hip hop, because that was the first time I think I really dug into I was aware of a Herbie Love Bug and the stuff that he was doing with Kid and Play and Salt and Pepper and all of them.
He's another producer that nobody talks about, like Herbie Love Bug and Howie T.
Howie T, that whole squad and Kwame and all of them, that, all of that. Yeah. That's like, I feel like that's a whole documentary that they could talk about, that whole style of production, that whole vibe. Cause especially for a kid like me at that age, I had yet to be in high school, but all of that production was fun. It was the shit that they played at all the house parties. It was the shit that, pun intended. Yeah. It was, so I felt like that whole school of producers deserve their own kind of documentary where you talk about just that whole vibe. But yeah, the first record that I was like, what the fuck is that? How you make that was Digital Underground's Do What You Like. And from there, just pretty much everything, we talked about Pete Rock. We talked about, you can get into, what happens with NWA and Dr. Dre and all of that stuff at the time.
Yeah.
And
it's funny too. Not funny, but I saw early on that you were on tour with I believe the Roots and the Tribe, right? Like early on when you were with the Percussions, or
not together, but meaning that we Tribe and Roots weren't on the same bill.
Right. Just at different times. I meant,
but at different times, we were really, really fortunate. The Tribe thing in particular, because we were road dogs. We stayed on the road. We loved performing. The Percussions initially in our inception, we made records just so that we could perform live. We loved doing shows. It took us a while to figure out, maybe we should press up some wax, because it was we just loved rocking shows. Our favorite groups to watch was groups like Beastie Boys and Leaders of the New School and all these groups that had a lot of energy on stage. We loved that shit. Yeah. So we wanted to be on stage and do that. So we spent a lot of time on the road and doing shows. And I remember we were touring. I can't remember if this was for it must have been for our first album. And we ended up doing the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival. Wow. And I remember we did our set, we got done, and we're all in the back in our tents. And I remember this. I remember going over to a tent, because the producer S1 was in a group called Strange Fruit Project.
Of course. Woo. And I got a record together too. That shit was crazy.
That was fun, man. Yeah. But
shouts to S1, Strange Fruit.
Shouts to S1, yeah, man. And I remember I went over to his tent to say what up. And as I was walking back from his tent to our tent, I stopped to talk to somebody else random. And I see Ali Shaheed Muhammad and Chip Fu walking towards me. And I'm going, yo, that's Chip and Ali. And I was like, wait, they're walking towards me. I initially thought that they were walking somewhere else. Yeah. I was like, but no, they were walking towards me specifically. And Ali came up to me and he's like, listen, man, how you doing? My name is Ali. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, this is Chip.
I just threw up like,
yeah.
That would have been me earlier. I love the Quest, but go ahead.
Yeah, man. But he was like, Ali was like, listen, man, Tribe is, we going on a tour. We low key, doing this reunion thing or whatever. Been talking with the guys and I would love to have y'all be one of the openers. And I was like,
oh my God.
It was stupid. It was and I remember running back to I played it cool. I was like, oh man, yeah, that would be really fun. That would be an honor, man. Let me talk to management and figure all of that out, because luckily at the time our manager toured with us. So I remember, as soon as they got out of eyesight, I ran back to the tent and I was like, yo, Ali Shaheed Muhammad and Chip Fu approach me or whatever. They talking about doing a Tribe tour. They want us to be on the bill. What do we have to do, in order to make that happen? Whatever. And our manager at the time, he was with us. He's like, oh, are they still here? And I was like, and I I was like, I literally just was talking to him or whatever. Like, if you run, you'd probably catch him or whatever. And he did. He ran up to him and he called him, got their contact info. And yeah, they made it happen. Like, now at the time, well, maybe this was second album, because at the time we were signed to Rockets. We were signed to Rockets Records.
That's right. Yes.
And, you know, Rockets had kind of like blown, I think, a lot of the budget on, you know, like we had like.
This is a newly reformed Rockets too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This was like their second go at, like, you know, whatever. And we were one of maybe two groups that they signed, and they would eventually do this thing called the Rockets 50, where they had a bunch of artists that they would just get behind and push, which was kind of a mess, but Rockets had kind of spent a lot of money on promoting our record already. Even the tour that we were on, they put a lot of money behind. So they looked at it and they were like, do we have the money to put behind y'all doing tour? And I was like, listen, if we got to pay for this ourselves, if we gotta tie a rope and be on a skateboard behind their tour bus, like, we'll do it, man.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's Tribe. You know, you don't.
Yeah.
Not many people say that they toured.
And it was the reunion tour too.
And it was the reunion. And this is what's crazy. If you watch like the Tribe documentary, they don't talk about the tour that we were on. They did a tour after the tour that we did with them.
Right.
Because the tour that we did was like, I think it was called like the Bounce Skate Rock Tour. It was like Xbox or something had something to do
I remember.
with it.
Yeah.
And they had Xbox set up at every venue when we showed up, and there was people playing video games out in the lobby. Like, it was dope.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the one we did. And that one happened before the one that shows up in the documentary. Yeah, I don't remember how many cities we did. It was all kind of spread out. Fife was already kind of sick. So, they had it kind of spread out. But the dopest thing about it, man, is I remember, you know, like, yeah, we got to do it. And, we rented a minivan, and we was, you know, with a little hitch on the back for all our merch and our instrumentation or whatever. And every city, I remember we would get to every city and, show up to sound check, and Ali would be checking on the tables.
I love it.
And he was real, like, to this day, one of the nicest, the coolest individuals in the world. Yeah. And I remember, like, I would be standing on the side watching them check Tribe records. Just
hearing the boom, boom, boom,
boom. Like, literally, like their tour manager would be like, run something. And you hear this, doom, 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 doom. And I'm looking around like,
oh my God. I'm about to punch somebody right now. That's my shit. Man.
And he would like call me over. He'd be like, yo, check this out, whatever, and like show me shit. And sometimes one of the times he called me over and he showed me like he had like all of our records and singles like in his setup. And he's like, yo, man, I've been following y'all for a minute. I'm like blown. And I remember one of the last cities that we got to, I think one of the last cities we did was like a city in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And they were checking, and I was posting up on the side watching them check, and Tip couldn't be there. So he was like, Stro, could you check Tip's mic? And I was like, sure, whatever. And we get out there, he plays the record. I'm doing, Tip's verse.
Yeah.
And I start going into the voice a little bit. Just to like get an accurate,
you know what I'm saying?
Sound check.
B.
You know what I'm saying? And as I'm doing it, I could hear Ali kind of laughing behind me. And then he starts to laugh a little bit louder. And it's that moment that I realized, oh shit, Tip showed up. And he's behind me. I know I don't have to turn around. Man. I know he's behind me. I'm going to stop doing the voice. Thank y'all and good night. And I bowed out.
And he was like,
and I didn't even turn around. I just hopped off stage and was like, hopefully that works for y'all.
He was like, yo, that shit ain't funny, B. Yo,
listen, yeah. I didn't even wait around for it to get the verdict. I was like,
were they like your heroes at the time, or were they just like, okay, yeah,
yeah,
what?
Yeah, no, because I have to tell people all the time, because if I think about everything I loved about hip hop and hip hop production and just the idea of what a hip hop group was. Tribe was kind of it for me because I think I was a fan of hip hop. Like I said, everybody starts with the Run DMCs and and the early groups and the Houdinis and all them. And I was a fan of all of them groups. I didn't see myself being a part. I didn't see a version of me in hip hop until the Tribes and the De La showed up.
Oh,
because there was, Run DMC and all of them, like they had this bravado, this like, and this like specifically like this East Coast hip hop bravado that
I'm going to tell you right now. No, I'll cut your ass up. I'm going to tell you right now, from a person on the East Coast, they look like money. And we couldn't afford that. I couldn't afford no shell-toed Adidas at the time.
Right.
Could you with the bomber coats and the...
I couldn't afford the hats. I couldn't afford the leather pants, obviously. I couldn't afford, there was a lot. But even just their identity was like this, it was just a whole bravado that I just wasn't. I mean, listen, I was a little nerd. I read a lot of books.
Yeah.
I was a person that, I thought I was going to be a scientist up until like the 8th grade when I figured out, well, I got to get something higher than a C in science if I want to be a scientist.
And I played a fucking hell of a out of recorder.
Yeah,
exactly. I played the recorder. I was but I think when I remember the first time I went over to my homeboy's crib and he was playing the People's Instinctive Travels album, and the first time I heard Bonita, and I was like, yo, like whatever this is, like this is my vibe. Whatever this is, this is, like I said, I'm a fan of everything else. I loved all these other records, Eric B, Rakim, EPMD, all of that shit was dope. But the whole Native Tongues movement was the first time that I saw myself in hip hop, in a version of it that I could actually be a part of.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of my life, brother. Yo, Stro, that's why I love you, bro, because that's exactly what I identified with too. Because it was like Tribe, like not even Tribe, but it was De La first, and they were like goofy in the class and shit. Like when you see the videos and shit, they were like goofing off in class. Like, and
they were so weird, and I fucking loved it. They were so weird,
right? And I went through every facet of hip hop too. I mean, I eventually got the shell-toed Adidas, but I got everything late. And then the Tribe came along, and just like you said, man, I was just like, wow, this sounds like it felt. And the Tribe, and I think it was like Buddy when the Buddy record came out, because I'm a DJ, and I was just like, man, I feel like they're not really talking about things. They're talking about things that I can see visually. You know what I'm saying? And De La didn't feel like they were from the hood, because they were talking about, it's just like mirror.
Yeah, they were talking about daisies, like, yogurt. They had ketchup as a mascot. They had girls with cue cards, and like, I was like, this is the weirdest, craziest. Like, to me, it was almost like a hip hop version of like Parliament Funkadelic, but without the drugs.
But almost like Digital Underground too. They were in that.
Same. Yeah.
They came in like they came in like De La as well. Like they were like kind of goofy in a way as well. Like I'd say goofy. It was nerdy.
It was nerdy. It was just different. I think I gravitated towards anything that just felt different.
Yeah.
Because even on the West Coast, especially on the West Coast, everything started to kind of feel the same. Like everybody wanted to make the same records. Everybody was trying to be NWA or Dre or Ice Cube. And it was like, okay, this is dope. But, so for me and probably, a circle of friends, it was just really dope to see somebody bring something different and something that was somewhat relatable. Cause I mean, you look at just, and I tell this to Paz, like I've told this to him on a number of occasions. I'm like, listen, man, like it wasn't like rappers were rapping stupid. They weren't dumb, but I think he brought a certain amount of like, wordplay in kind of vocabulary to hip hop, and even just kind of in his cadence, like, he wasn't yelling on the mic. He wasn't, everything was really laid back without it being Rakim. They kind of just fit this really specific lane of like, I don't want to say a blue collar rapper, but just somebody you could just kind of connect with. And it permeated everything they did, the way that they dressed, the way that they performed. Like, it was identifiable.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you can identify too, because you're a lyricist as well. Just the subject matter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, what they were talking about. Even when I couldn't understand exactly because they would be so abstract,
right.
I would kind of get the gist of whatever. Like, it didn't take me long to figure out what Buddy was, and I was like, okay, I ain't experiencing much Buddy yet, but I think I know what they're talking about.
Right. Like, I had no clue. Like even I was even in college, man. Like with Quest came out with oh my God, Award Tour, and the Concubine, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And I was in college. I was like, man, let me look that up. I was like, oh, okay, all right, shit. Like.
And likewise, I think, Digital Underground would be maybe taken, as more kind of silly if you're talking about Humpty Hump. But just like their whole outfit was just kind of like, it was a playful thing. Like, I think, to this day, I will die laughing at, like, and probably one of Digital Underground's less known albums was the Body Hat Syndrome album. and the whole thing. Yeah, the whole cover is silly. They're inside a big ass condom, and like, there's a song on there called the Jerk It Circus. Like, there's like, and they've got but in particular, there's one song called Digital Lover, and there's no verses. Just like, it's a song with the beat is dope as shit, and the entire song is just them sampling porno chicks, like making like porno noises. And then like every maybe minute or so, they do a hook, and the hook is just them going, "You need a digital lover. You need a digital lover." But like every probably third time, Humpty Hump would come in and he would say something stupid like, "You need a biblical brother," like just something dumb. you need a tuna fish sandwich, like. But I loved it. I loved just like the fact that they were just being stupid on the mic over like a dope beat.
Yeah, I mean, and to think about it now, like they had to have been like they were influencing each other when it comes to De La and Digital, because they were both on Tommy Boy Records. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. They were both on Tommy Boy. Yeah, man. I remember, Sex Packets and shit. That was a fuck. Sex Packets. That was
the first time I got in trouble for a tape.
Yeah, there was a skit. It was like, one of y'all motherfuckers is different. I'll forget what it was a skit, but man, it's just like, I'm glad that we're talking about all this, man, because now I get it when we listen to your music, man. It's just well rounded. It is the instrumentation. It's just, man, it's super fire, man. Like, man, like, so you exit out, percussions, and you were a solo. You were a solo, and you start the beat tape circuit, and and you come with, you already talked about the Beat Farm joint, but where were you at, like, exiting out of the percussions in LA? Like, what was it tough? Because I know as a producer, man, we had to place, like trying to place records and trying to get placements. When did you decide, I was like, I'm just going to put, these instrumentals out? I guess even before the Beat Farm joint, like, were you in a place where you were just like, man, like.
Well, no, it was interesting. The Beat Farm joint comes out, or I put that out. And initially it was something I had up just on Bandcamp. my partner Jay in the percussions, it was his suggestion. He's like, yeah, listen, man, you can put anything up on Bandcamp and it's yours. Do what you want with it. So I did that, and the most notable thing for me is that it was an independent source of income. It was okay, here's this thing that I put up on Bandcamp. I see money from it on a weekly basis. You know what I mean?
Right, yes.
Even if it's just gas and food money, like that's something that wasn't there before. You know what I mean?
You can see it too. Like
you could see it. You could see it. Yeah.
Right? Cha-ching.
Exactly. Yeah. Every time I got one of them notices on the phone, I was like, oh, word. we eating pizza from the good aisle in the grocery store tonight.
Right.
But no, like, so it started there. And then it was funny because it just became like, again, because you had all of a sudden this tangible thing that existed that people could actually grab and say, oh, okay, this is Stro, the producer's project. This isn't a percussions album. This isn't him featured on something, like this is his shit.
Right.
It wasn't too long after that that I ran into House Shoes. This House Shoes was now in LA. And I remember I was out and about at some event. There was always something to do in LA.
Right.
And I remember House Shoes just about cornered me, and he was like, yo, we need to put out some records. And I'm going,
sounds about
hi,
right.
how you doing? My name is Stro. And in my brain, I had a bunch of Dilla questions. I wanted to know everything about Dilla because I never met him, like I said. And, but we just started talking about records, and he made it a point to tell me, he's like, listen, man, I'm going to tell you something. He's like, your name is in the mouths of a lot of motherfuckers that you don't realize. Like, there are a lot of motherfucking producers, established and less than established, that know who the fuck you are.
What'd I tell you? What I told you that earlier, bro.
Man, listen.
I told you that earlier.
But listen, I just would be in my box, in my bubble. Like I was, like I said, I'm a nerd to the most. Like I like being in the lab. I like just being creative. And so, what was going on outside of that bubble, while it was great that there were people talking about me, like I was like, well, cool, that's great, but that does nothing for, my craft. That does nothing for my skill set. Only thing I have control of is what goes on inside this little bubble I've created. You know what I mean? So, but he told me, he's like, listen, man, he's like, people know who you are. People know your records. He's like, what I was for Dilla, I want to be for you. He's like, can we put something out? And I'm like, sure. What do you want to do? He's like, he did the same thing that Inca did. He was like, send me some shit, send me some records.
Yeah.
So, it was funny because, I sent him some records. And at the time, the thing that was feeding me, the thing that was really like the thing that was my greatest playground was SoundCloud. There were a lot of producers, and, if you look at, the whole inception or the early stages of the Soul-Lection movement, they were all kind of tapped into what was going on SoundCloud. And I was one of those producers. So, the first time I released the Kamal Coltrane was on SoundCloud.
Oh, man.
The first time that I released, the Marvin's Mood and all that shit. All of that shit was on SoundCloud because that was a whole community. And
that's right. That's how I found Kamal's, before I actually had the record, I found Kamal Coltrane on SoundCloud.
On SoundCloud. Yeah. Everything. I was doing everything on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
So
that's I found the Egyptian Way on SoundCloud.
That's right.
Egyptian Way.
Well, I told you about that.
You did tell me about that. But where was it? Where was it when you told me?
It was on SoundCloud.
Right.
It's on SoundCloud.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So I think in my brain, because I was like, all right, I've got this beat tape out. This seems like a good playground for me to just test shit out. If I put out another beat tape, I'll probably just use a collection of my favorite joints from SoundCloud. But what that ended up being was House Shoes, my first release with House Shoes. Because House Shoes loved the Egyptian Way. House Shoes loved the summer love joint. House Shoes loved.
Oh my God, the James Brown shit.
He loved the James Brown joint.
Oh my God.
And so he was like, yeah, can we just collect all of these? And then he was like, we got to put the Soul Show. Like, can we? Like, and I'm like, listen, man, like, again, it was just one of them records I couldn't escape. So he was like, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy, you know, to have all these records that I thought were just going to live on SoundCloud, and all of a sudden have them get pressed up on wax.
Yeah.
You know, and Shoes came up with the artwork with the, you know, the little van or the little truck or whatever. And yeah, next thing I know, I had another release.
Oh, you know? My God. I'm telling you right now, you know, this is fascinating. You know, I have to play, we have to play some music real quick because you have, first of all, I think Kamal Coltrane might be my favorite record from yours. From the start of it, you know, just it rising. I know the inspiration, but you know, the Q-Tip Diligent. But man, like just the way you did it, man, it was just like, it was super dope. However, mistakes. Was it misunderstanding? It's on.
I'm forgetting what I called the record.
It was called mistakes and something. If if you can find that joint, this record, man. It was on his solo project. It's just type in like mistakes. Oh my God, bro!
Mistaken and Hurt.
Yes.
Mistaken and Hurt.
What was behind that record, man? Like it wasn't.
I mean, honestly, just initially, like the sample, the vocals are just an a cappella from a record. You know, I think it's the same band that did Afternoon Delight.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. So initially, I was laughing at the record just because you know, we're all a fan of Anchorman, the first Anchorman.
Yes.
You know.
Oh my God.
And I remember, like, I knew the record, and I was like, all right. And so I remember one day I was digging for vinyl. And I found that I was like, oh, buy this just because it has, you know, the Skyrockets in Flight joint on it or whatever. Yeah. But somewhere else on that record is just this song that's an a cappella joint of them singing. And I'm going, the vocals are just ill. Like, I just want to find a way to use this.
Oh my God. Like, bro, like, first of all, man, this is news. Have you ever told this story?
I don't know. I don't know if I have. I don't know if I know that there was people who liked that record, but I don't know if they ever asked me about how or why it was made.
I love this record. Yo, React. Just
yeah, this shit is crazy.
I mean, come on, man. You mean to tell me you got the same band?
The vocals, man. When they come in, it takes a while for the vocals to come in.
Nah, yeah, come on. Just let it breathe, people. Oh, yeah. You mean this part right here?
Yeah.
Crazy, man.
This is crazy. I listened to this record a million times, B. I'm telling you. And this was after I knew who Stro was, and I was waiting on the release. And
what's your favorite record that you ever done?
Yeah. Oh, man.
I know that's a tough question because everything you make is, you know, something that you like.
Oh man!
Like what record did you know that was gonna go?
Exactly.
I don't think I have any records that I knew was gonna do anything in particular. I think I knew there were records that I made that when I got done making them, they just felt good.
Right.
And Marvin's Mood was one.
Oh my God.
Mostly just because I'm such a big Marvin Gaye fan, and I think in particular. And there's a reason why when you listen to Marvin's Mood, the section where the drums drop out in that section in the middle, with the don't you wanna kill? That whole section as a kid, I used to just love that part of the record.
Yeah.
And so I remember when the first time that I got my hands on, I was like, wait, there's an acapella of this? Like I can just listen to this part, just an acapella. I listened to that part over and over again. And so I knew that even when I was making that record, that I was going to have that section just play out because I've always loved that part of the record.
I'm glad you did.
Man, I don't think I had a choice in the matter. Like I think the other version of me would have came and whooped my ass because it was like, that I love that part of the record so much that I was like, I can't do anything to this part of the song. Like,
I'm so glad you said that because I swear to you, Stro, word of my Nana B, like I was having a conversation and he's gonna hear this. We talked about I was like, yeah, we're interviewing Stro Elliot. Like I said, go to YouTube because he got a system in his crib and shit in his basement, like, and he, YouTube on his big ass speakers. I said, play Marvin's Mood, and he was like, and he heard the record and it was the build up to the build up to it, and he was just like, I could tell he was grimace for a second, and then he just started explaining about, some records don't need to be touched. It's like that's my big bro. Shouts to Uncle Tom. And then I said, just let the record breathe, B. like just keep listening to it. And then his posture just changed. And he was just like, and then the part that you were just talking about when it when it opens up and the horns and the strings, I'm glad that you did that because then it gets quiet to the get down part. And then the beat comes in. It's just oh my God. Oh my God, B, like, and then he was just like, yo, I'm saying, yo, that shit was dope. I'm like, yeah, I know it was fucking dope, motherfucker. I was just trying to tell you this shit was dope. Like, he's like, like some records should not be touched. I'm
You're
like,
right.
Nah, man. I'm like, you need to let this one breathe, man. Like, I'm glad.
Listen,
like,
and I'm in agreement. There was a part of me that didn't want to touch that record in particular. Like I said before, I had done the Turn On Some Marvin joint. But even that I did with just the belief that it was only going to exist on that one beat battle. It wasn't something I knew was going to get pressed up and released to anybody else.
I play that shit.
We're playing that.
The fucking time.
Can we play that record? Let's play the
time.
record now. Fuck it.
All the time.
We doing music breaks. I'm sorry if you got to go.
I play this shit all the time, bro. All the time.
I'll play this shit this Friday, man. Shout to Row House, baby. I can't wait.
This shit is crazy, man.
I actually haven't heard this record in a while.
It's crazy, bro. When I heard this, I was like, okay, Eric Sermon, and then when I heard this, I was like, let the beat play.
I mean, Marvin's vocals is doing all the heavy lifting.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go, right here.
This shit is so funky.
And darling, your love is just like music.
Oh my God. Were you ever thinking about
Hold on.
Were you ever thinking about?
Hold on. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. That's the best part.
My.
You know what's interesting about this record? Like I said, it was made for like a beat battle. So I mean, I think
And he lost. He took the L. I'm sorry. I forgot his name. I'm not trying to be
my
funny.
man Newman. It wasn't even a competition. Like it wasn't.
Exactly. It wasn't even a competition.
No,
Because
not like that. Not like that. We were just two producers on stage having fun.
Okay.
But no, like I had to, once I decided it was going to be something, once the people told me that they wanted to hear it again, because I played the keyboards live. So during the beat battle, I'm playing the keys live. So when I get done, I'm thinking like, all right, did that, done. And so when people's like, oh, are you going to post it on MySpace or post it on whatever? So I'm like, well, there's not really a recorded version of it. What you heard was, just the drums and the sample and then whatever I played or whatever. So I had to go home and play it and record it and, to the rest of the joint so that it was more complete. So what you hear is what happened once I went home that night, once I figured out that, oh, this is actually going to be some shit that people want to hear and play again because it was all played live initially. But
Man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's crazy.
Oh my God. That is insane.
Man, good times.
So many records, man. Did you realize the magnitude, or you just, in real time, or are you the kind of producer that you were truly hoping that it would resonate, or you were just plugging away?
I don't know if I had any expectations whatsoever. I think I'm a person that is constantly grateful for just the opportunity to be creative and to have a collective of people who are interested in what I create. And anything that happens beyond that is a cherry on top. And at this point, it's an embarrassment of riches, of cherries on top in terms of like what I get to experience and what I get to be a part of,
Well, speaking of being that's a beautiful segue. Speaking of being a part of, man, I am truly happy. And I still get giddy every single time I catch the Jimmy Fallon show and you're a part of the Roots. And when you joined when it was initiated, when it first mentioned that you joined the Roots, I was like, yes. I felt like, man, like I championed your music for so long. I felt like whatever he's going through right now, at the time before the Roots, it's going to change for the better. Because I know about TV time, about TV and how it's just a different ball game from actual music industry, TV and music, the splits. Splits, but just music, period, man. How the breakdown is, man, is completely. And you've done music for Hamilton as well.
That all it was funny. That all kind of happened at the same time. Well, I was out. My initial kind of interaction with the Roots, at least as a group, because I had met Amir, I had met Quest a couple of times. He was out in LA, a couple of times. I met James maybe once, and maybe that's it. I felt like maybe there was one other member I met, but maybe that was it. But they were doing what is now the only Roots picnic to take place in New York. Was like Were you okay? That was like 2016.
I was there, brother. 2000. It was the year I met my wife. It was 2016.
Oh, wow.
In the fall, I remember. And Black Thought fucking murdered it.
Yeah.
That shit was
and
crazy.
Listen,
I was in between stages, and I was going back. I was high as fuck.
Oh, you just
talking
about? Yeah, we were just talking about that
stage. That shit was crazy. And Wu-Tang tore it down. It was it's a crazy show. I was there both days. Nuts.
Yeah, man. And listen, at that point, I hadn't been in New York. I hadn't been to New York in I don't know how long. Like it had been a minute since I had been in New York. So it was crazy, one, to get the invitation. Cause this was after, I think, the first playlist retreat.
Yep.
I don't know if this was after, I don't think this was after the sessions, the Chasing Goosebumps shit. I don't think so. But
Chasing Goosebumps came out in 2016.
Okay, so maybe that was
around the same time. Around the same time.
Yep. Yeah.
So I get a text. I get a text from Amir from Quest, and he's like, listen, I hear that you play drums on pads, like as well as like a drummer, and I'm like, sure. And he's like, listen, we're doing Wu-Tang for the New York, whatever. I would love it if what we do live sounds like the record. So that means if you could play the drum loops or the drum sounds live under what I'm doing and the rest of the band, and make it sound as authentic as possible, like that would be dope. And I'm like, sure, yeah. So it was dope because it all kind of coincided with the fact that at that time I had already taped my episode of Rhythm Roulette, and it released that same weekend that I went out to New York to do that.
Amir saw it though. Amir saw it.
I don't know if he did.
Amir saw it, and he had to have had Soul Stro.
Well, I know he had that. He had that. He doesn't, because at that point we at least had a relationship where I know he had some of the records.
Okay,
right.
So I get to New York. Like I said, it had been a minute since I'd been in New York, and this was the best way to come back to New York.
Yeah,
was like, all right, I'm going to play the Roots Picnic in the middle of Bryant Park in the middle of Midtown. Back in Wu-Tang, Nile Rodgers was on the bill, David Byrne was on the bill, Alicia Keys was on the bill.
That had to be amazing.
And it was one of the best shows I've ever seen.
And listen, I got there the night before. I got there the day before because they were rehearsals. And the tricky part of it is that I had a gig in the Bay in San Fran. And there was some confusion about when my flight was to take off. So, Miss Tina Ferris, she hooked it up where I was able to catch a red eye. From San Fran to be there the early next morning for rehearsals, which ended up not happening, which was a blessing in disguise because I was dead tired. I don't drink coffee, and I was on that flight chopping samples with a cup of coffee because that was the only time I had to prepare. Yeah. But I land and I get a text from Tina. She's like, listen, send me the receipt from the cab to the hotel. You don't have to worry about rehearsal because they canceled rehearsal, whatever. I'm like, yes. Okay, cool. Right. So I got to go to the hotel, take a nap. And then me and Jay Period and Jeremy Ellis, who was touring with the band at the time, we got to run through just the sample shit that first night, which was dope. So the next day, we go to rehearsal and we rehearse the Wu-Tang shit. And we're like, okay. And everybody's being delegated what parts they're doing. And we get done and Amir was like, all right, so we'll rehearse tomorrow too, but we got to run through this D shit real quick. And I'm going, got to run through this D shit. I was like, oh, they're going to rehearse the D'Angelo set. And I'm packing as slow as possible just so that I can just sort of catch wind of whatever they were going to rehearse or whatever. Because out of the corner of my eye, I see Pino Palladino setting up on bass.
Oh my God!
I see Sharkey setting up. I see whatever they're setting up to run through the D'Angelo set. And eventually, I go over to Amir and I'm like, listen, man, I'm all packed up. I could leave. But is it possible? And he's, oh, yeah. Just set up in back and just, whatever. There's food back there. You just chill or whatever. And I'm like,
oh, my God.
And I got to sit there and watch them just rehearse the D'Angelo set, which was enough. I could have left New York and y'all would have never heard from me again. I was done. I was good. But afterwards, I was like, Amir was like, yeah, let me introduce you. And he, I go up and meet him and he's like, and it was the wildest thing for him to be like, yeah, you were he didn't say my name or anything. He was just like, you remember the records I played for you? And D was like, oh, yeah. He's like, this is the guy. And I'm going, wait. And he's like, oh, man, yeah, shit is dope, man. Whatever. Dap him up, whatever. We talked for a minute or two. And I start to leave. And at that moment, that's when Amir invited me to come back out because he was like, listen, the Roots are working on a record, which still isn't a thing yet. He's like, I've already invited Ninth, and, I got Kareem Riggins and, a bunch of producers coming down to work. He's like, we're shutting down Electric Lady for like a week or two. If you can come back out at the end of the month and work on the joint or whatever. So that was all of that. So I went to go watch that set that night because the D set was that first night. We weren't performing until the following night. But it was a whole vibe. That whole first day was bucket list for me. Like that would have been enough on top of the fact that the next night I actually got to be on stage behind Wu-Tang and perform and do all this shit or whatever. And listen, man, like I got off the stage that night. There was like an after party somewhere, where like Tariq was performing, where, Black Thought was performing with some of the Dap Kings and they were doing like this impromptu set or whatever. And I sat there and I watched that until, my eyes felt heavy and I was like, all right, I'm good. I went back to the hotel, went to sleep. I think I caught a train to Jeff's crib the next day to, and just kind of unwinded there until my flight left out of Philly. And I was like, I'm good. That's all I needed. So it was a surprise to get a phone call from Amir, maybe 2-3 months later. And he was, well, first of all, there was a series of mysterious texts and questions in the text that were like, so, what are you doing for the next 5 to 25 years of your life? I'm going, I don't know. He's like, how long do you see yourself living in LA? And I'm going, I don't know. Like, and eventually I was just like, bro, what the fuck? Like, and he's like, all right, so there's an opening in the band. We had to let somebody go. But I was, some of the other members of the band, we were all sitting around and, they were throwing out, traditional percussionists and whatever, but I threw your name out. I was like, how about we do something a little different? We got somebody that's, that sits a little bit outside of just your traditional percussionist. He's also a producer and, can obviously add to, whatever else we got going on. And, what do you guys think? And it was funny because to hear them talk about the conversation was like, oh yeah, that'd be dope, but why would he join this band? And I'm going, wait, what? Because their mindset was, here's this guy that is a producer, and they weren't completely wrong, to their credit. Because to be honest, I was really happy doing what I was doing. I was happy, my trajectory was much slower and, obviously less income, but, I was really happy getting to do the shows that I was doing and the showcases I was doing and being in the sessions that I was a part of.
No, your trajectory was definitely up.
I mean, but it was, because, it's what they do, what they were doing was, the Fallon thing and even the Roots itself is such a high profile gig in terms of the things that they do. It wasn't, and I definitely wasn't that. But I was happy. I was happy doing what I was doing. And so, to get that call and for him to, immediately I said, yeah, even if I didn't know what I was going to do, I said, yeah. And as soon as I got off the phone, I called Mr. Jeffrey Towns. I called Jazzy Jeff. And I was like, listen, bro, I was like, hey man, I think I just got offered a job. And he was like, what, as a Root? And I was like, I think so, man. And listen, at the time, Jeff was preparing to do these run of shows with Mr. Will Smith. They were going to do some Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince shows. And Jeff wanted me to be a part of this band that they were putting together. So everything in me wanted him to just be like, listen, man, when we're doing these shows, like, and I was asking him almost to the point where I wanted him to be like, well, you either doing this or you doing that. And believe me when I tell you, if Jeff would have put down that ultimatum, I would have stuck with Jeff. I honestly would have. Like, that's, a lot of that is just my character. I'm a loyal motherfucker. Like if, and because I was already working with Jeff and we had already had this situation set up, that's what I would have done. But Jeff being who he is, being the, the kind of person that he is, he's like, listen, man, this is a decision that, you have to make for yourself. Yeah. This is about what you want to do in not only the near future, but the far future. Like, this is an opportunity, and I don't want to have anything to do with, stopping, being a part of, being, a hiccup in something that you wanted to do. I mean, you've played with the band at this point and, at the New York picnic. But and the best thing he did for me is he put me on the phone with James, Mr. James Poison.
Oh,
he was like,
James Poison.
He's like, yeah, he was like, James is my guy. He's like, I'll put you on the phone and you can talk to him about the gig. And yeah, we talked for probably a good half hour just about what it was. And James was real with me. He was like, listen, it's a job, the reason that the guys like viewed you in this way or like didn't think it would be a thing that you would do is because we all look at guys like you as like, oh, you guys have the freedom to do whatever y'all want to do.
Right.
Like this job means that 5 days out of the week, you have to be somewhere,
Yeah.
And even though it's the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon at 30 Rock, there's always this block of time that's spoken for as opposed to like you just being able to make whatever you want to make, create what you want to create, do whatever gigs you want to do. We kind of look at that as a luxury at this point. Love the gig, love the job, and love the money, and love the stability. But but you have to come into it knowing that it is a job, and so it was something to think about. And I think ultimately what won out was number one, the guys, because James made it a point to be like, oh yeah, it'll be super fun, it'll be obviously really dope having you be a part of this outfit or whatever, but if you factor everything else in. But there was a lot of things that I had just never done before. I had never been in a band of that caliber before. Like I said, I had never lived in New York. I didn't know anything about New York or the East Coast in general, really, being mostly based out west, if not Midwest. And it was just kind of, it just would have been an experience. And, and the agreement from the beginning was like, listen, try it out. If it doesn't work, we tried it. You know what I mean? So, pretty much right from jump, like it was, and it wasn't the easiest transition because everything happened really fast, like within because they had to also kind of tie up loose ends with, with the guy that they let go. And, in the meantime,
what was his name again?
Frank.
Yes.
Frank Knuckles. Yeah.
Yes.
So they had to tie all that up. And in the meantime, they had somebody in his place until I showed up. It was
a white dude, right? With curly hair.
No. This was Draper, Aaron Draper was a percussionist.
Okay.
Yeah. He plays with Adele and he's played with John Mayer.
Yes.
Like he's
Okay.
Draper's the homie. But they had Draper holding it down until I got there. And so, there was a weird transition, like, cause, they were still in the middle of doing these usher gigs and there was a lot of stuff I didn't know yet. So I was kind of like just kind of watching from the sidelines until I figured out the ropes. On top of the fact that it was like, I didn't have anywhere to stay. I'm in New York, like, my God. I don't know anything about the city. It was wild. It was crazy, and it got to a point where at least they got me a spot to stay for a couple weeks, or they paid at least for my Airbnb. Until I got
Were you terrified?
I wasn't terrified, but it was unsettling, because I'm a person that is, I don't usually do stuff like that. That's not unplanned. I'm a planner. I'm a person that likes to have all my ducks lined up in a row before I take the leap. But it was what it was. It was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I have to come out now. I have to just kind of jump in the water. And, the only thing that was kind of nerve wracking was the living situation. I was like, listen, if y'all give me a spot to stay in, everything else will work itself out. I just need to have a place to go, and not only just to kind of lay my head, but just to kind of wrap my head around things and kind of unpack the thoughts and the many things that I probably had to digest that particular day. Cause my first day on that, my first weeks on the job, it was like, I knew nothing about television. I knew nothing about being in a band of this caliber. I knew nothing about the city and what subway to catch to be.
The rest of the band, first of all, the rest of the band was, they probably, when you first got there, like, all right. Did he brief you on what you were going to be doing?
No, I mean, by the time we got around to talking about what, he told me, he was like, listen, Amir was really adamant. He was like, I want you to be you. He's like, don't worry about sounding like doing what Frank was doing. Don't worry about what other percussionists are doing. I want you to use whatever equipment that you use to do what you do. So if you're using the push, use the push. If you're using whatever, like use whatever futuristic shit you got going on.
Yep.
He's like, I want you to do you. He's like, I would love it if you were able to contribute as well as a producer. There is obviously moments where we need you to write for little skits and shit that happen on the show.
Yeah.
And then there's also times where I'm gonna need you to possibly fill in for me. Being a drummer. So I'm taking all of that and then also factoring in being a part of this television show that's an institution.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's like, I had to learn a lot. I was like, okay, look up. Like it's, there's cameras everywhere. Be mindful of which cameras are on us when they're on us and all this shit. And like, there was just the learning curve was very steep from jump,
Yeah, man. Oh,
see, this shit is easy. It's one fucking camera. All I got to do is look straight.
That's right. And I don't even look straight because I'm my
look
shit
up
is
at the lights
bootleg.
and the fucking
Right.
Your shit is more a little bit more fancy than mine. React. I mean, my shit is. I mean, I got a good camera.
I bought a nice like soft light here. I got I don't know what another light over here.
I see you got the Manscaped shit in back too.
Yeah, shout out to Manscaped. 20% off. Use the code the Chop Shop.
Yeah.
Oh, word. Okay.
You use Manscaped?
I do actually.
Yeah, my guy.
I do.
Stro Elliot from the roots is uses Manscaped, people.
I do. Listen, man, it's you gotta take care of it. Well, listen, I mean, and some of this was, it took me a minute to start adulting. Because it was I didn't have a proper like skincare routine. I wasn't washing my face correctly. I wasn't doing I was using rough ass soap on my body and shit. Like it was, I had to get lessons how to properly take care of myself.
I will never ever forget, and it's something that we both share in common, Mr. Stro Elliot. This is a Nardwuar moment, pal.
Uh-oh.
I remember, I am a fan, and I actually follow. When you're in the shower, you niggas need to wash your feet. Don't let the water drip. That's not washing your feet. You said that years ago. Am I right?
I did. I did. Listen, what it was mostly was to get to the fact that
Are you surprised that I brought that up?
A little bit, yeah. Well, but this is the thing. I've become less surprised over the years because I feel like a lot more people have started paying attention to what I do on IG.
Yeah.
And in particular, what I post in the stories. Because I get a little reckless in the stories. I talk about whatever shit.
I love it.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember having this conversation because I remember I almost busted my ass once, like getting out of a shower. And the thing that you don't realize is when you wash the bottom of your feet as you should,
you need to rinse them off.
All of a sudden, there's this perfect lubricant between you and the shower floor that becomes a hazard. If you don't properly rinse your feet off.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So I just made it a point to first give props to the people. I think that's what this post was. It's like, listen, kudos to everybody who properly washes your feet instead of just letting them and wash it, or whatever. But realize that there's a hazard to doing that shit. If you don't rinse off correctly, that you could bust your ass.
That's right.
Okay.
Even with the rubber mat, you still bust your shit.
Even with the rubber mat. I mean, because, my entire shower wasn't covered with the mat. So there's exposed areas of the shower.
There's nothing worse. And I've done it in my lifetime. There is nothing worse. It might have been once there was nothing worse than falling in the fucking shower.
Oh, it's
You're
terrible.
First of all, you're butt naked, and the shit, and you got no protection of clothes. This shit hurts, people. But
it's whack because I mean the scenario is that you're butt ass naked, you're wet, and you're potentially bleeding depending on what you've like injured. And it's the wackest looking crime scene ever.
Yeah, you got a swollen knee because the knee's always hitting.
Yeah. It's,
but I looked at it as, all right, it's people not washing their feet. You need to get in between the toe jams, people.
yeah.
Wash your feet. I thought that's what I thought because I listen.
It was both.
Yeah, okay, because I go through with the fingers with the soap through the toes, bro, and there's like you just can't you said something about that. Don't let the water just drip on your feet.
Yeah, don't just listen, man, because we can. I mean, I didn't think this was going to be where we was going, but listen.
Hey, no,
if you're washing your body, and you have all this attention to detail when you up here, you all up under the arms, you blah blah blah, your whole upper body gets mad love.
Yeah, man.
But and I know this is because I used to do this as a kid.
Yeah.
You get to a point where you just kind of like. Yeah. All right, all of this soapy water has just kind of worked its way down to my legs.
Yeah,
I've been standing in soapy water the whole time.
Dirty water.
I've been standing in soapy water the whole time. Like they're good. I don't need to like go down there. You know what I mean? Like we straight. Y'all good? Y'all got okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you don't think about that until all of a sudden it's just like, man, like like there's like this weird film of just dirt on top of my big toe when I rub on it a little bit.
Yeah, not even
and
that.
it's possibly because I didn't really show
the
love.
Toes, bro. The toe
in between on the bottom. Like where the like back tendon that gets a little creaky, like you just attention to detail.
And if you don't do that, trust me, it's building up. And I know some of y'all motherfuckers just be letting the water drip on your shit, and you think I'll wash my ankles and shit, and just letting the shit. And meanwhile, the toe jam is piling up with the dirty shit, and you just keep piling on.
Listen, man.
Socks. You know what I'm saying?
You don't get done. Listen, you don't get done eating and just run your plate underwater, do you? No.
No. Hey.
You take your wash rag or your sponge or whatever you use, and you wash that whole motherfucker, the top of it and the bottom of it.
Well, my wife would say, I'm glad you mentioned that because my wife, she goes, well, you don't have to do that because there's precision wash on the dishwasher.
See. Well, see, that's where it becomes problematic.
Yeah,
it becomes problematic because I don't believe in dishwashers, man. I don't.
Really?
No, I don't trust them.
I am never coming to your spot to drink.
No, I hand wash.
I'm drinking a soapy drink and shit. Like,
I feel more confident hand washing everything than what a dishwasher does. For two reasons. One, I don't feel like a dishwasher is thorough enough. And my mother used to do this. My mother used to be like, well, that's why you wash the plate. You wash all the dishes
pre-wash the dishes.
That's bullshit. Then why put it in the dishwasher at all?
Right.
Then why not just wash it all by hand instead of putting it in?
But you're not even using, bro. I don't use my dishwasher at all.
Oh, you should be.
Nah,
see, that's me. I don't use my dishwasher at all.
We don't use it. When
so
we have
just
people
relying
over
on,
and there's
on the fucking...
No. When we have people over, we have company, and there's like an abundance of shit, then, we'll put it in the dishwasher for ease of use and time and stuff.
Oh, only because the water is at a hot... Yo, you and Stro, come on, bruh. Nah, bro. There's like hot, steaming hot water that flushes up, and you would rather just put your hands into with a sponge that's been used a million times.
There's been times where I've put shit in the dishwasher before, and I've taken it out, and there's still shit on the plate.
That part.
Yes.
That part.
All right.
Maybe it's actually, you know what? It's not the dishwasher because Stro agrees with me.
No, it's the dishwasher.
Nah. It's not.
All I know is from my over the course of my lifetime, both living with my parents and not living with my parents,
Yeah.
I've tried to use dishwashers, and I never felt like they did the job correctly. So,
Nah.
And if I have to do so much work to get them to do the job correctly, I might as well just do it on my own without the dishwasher involved. Now, I will say this: I do use the dishwasher as a drying rack. I'll put the dishes in there after I'm done and let them dry in there, but that's it.
That is very smart.
So you just letting the germs that you just used from your hands.
Germs.
Yeah, man. All right.
What are you talking about?
Look, this is why I love this show, man, because like we get to talk music. This is the
Dishwashing and busting your face in the shower.
Nasty ass toe jam and shit. People need to wash their feet, man.
Hey, man, hygiene is important.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it is. Stro, man, we've been championing your music for so many years. I am truly happy that you are down with the roots, man, because the roots,
sir.
you make the roots even doper.
Man,
For real. I know it. I know it to be true, man. And they were legendary before, man, but even now, so, man.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I don't know if this is in the works or a possibility, but will there ever be a Black Thought Stro Elliot compilation EP?
Well, they Reek is constantly working. He's constantly putting out shit. I'm actually still waiting on the project that him and 14KT have coming out. That's been in the works for a while. Basically done. It's just a matter of getting all the legalities filled up or whatever. I've sent Reek has a few pieces of work that we've done, or whatever. I know he's written to at least a couple of them, but we haven't sat down, and been like, all right, what are we trying to do from front to end, whatever. We haven't sat down and really, and some of which because I get the feeling, and maybe he gets this feeling too, that if me and Reek hit the lab and we finish something, it'll just end up on a Roots record. Because technically you have two members of the Roots making music, so it's but no, we've talked about it, but nothing, and like I said, there's songs, there's like a track here, a track there, some stuff, that's been in the works, but nothing official, but I mean, anything can happen, man.
We need a Streams of Thought produced by Stro Elliot, man.
Oh my God.
Man,
are you
anything can happen, man.
Are you kidding me, bro? I mean, generic question. Are you somewhat living out your dream right now?
I don't. You know what? It's crazy, and I think I just had this conversation with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I'm experiencing now is I set the bar for myself very low from the gate. I was a person that was like, listen, if I get to create music, if I can make a living and make music where it pays my bills, and I get to just be in the game any way, shape, or form as a producer. Maybe I work at a studio and I do production and stuff. I just wanted to be around the music.
Yeah.
So everything that I'm experiencing now is well beyond whatever I dreamed for myself. Sure, I had maybe bucket list things that I wanted to be a part of. But like I said, doing the Roots picnic in New York, I would have been good. I would have left there and been fine and would have been like, okay, cool. Getting to work with certain individuals and being in certain rooms with people and even going back to the percussionist days, we toured with De La a couple times and doing the Tribe thing and and just the people that we got to open for, I was good, so the fact that there continues to be experiences that I get to be a part of and things that I get to experience is just, like I said, an embarrassment of riches that I can't be anything but grateful for. So I can't necessarily say that it's fulfilling any dream because I don't know if I had dreams this big. You know what I mean? I think I had aspirations of being a part of things like this, but definitely not to the extent that they've unfolded in the way that they've had over the last 6 or 7 years.
Right, man. And guess what? The working man is not a sucker. Real talk, man.
Yeah.
I mean, every time I see you on TV, and I mean, come on. I mean, I love Amir. I love Kamal. I love the Roots. I love Tariq. But every time I go in there, I'm always looking for Stro.
Like this.
I'm not bullshitting you, B. Like because I know that you were one of the last members that joined the group. But you were already an established dope producer, man. I just know that, man, and I can't wait to hear everything that's coming in the future. Like you're already working with one of the greatest lyricists ever. like that's crazy.
Listen, man, people ask me all the time. People ask me all the time why I don't rhyme anymore. Fuck them around for it.
Right.
Fuck am I rapping for? My reverence hasn't waned at all. Like I still, I look at those are my brothers, those are my guys, but I still look at what Tariq does in awe. I still look at what Amir does in awe. I still look at what James and all those guys do in awe. Like, I was a fan before,
Right.
I say it all the time. I was a fan before I was a friend. And, it's interesting that, that I'm on stage every night and performing these songs, that are, classics. You Got Me is a classic, Dynamite is a classic, all these things, Proceed, all these joints are classics. And, to get to be on stage and perform these things. And it's always weird because I'll get, afterwards, you'll get a fan that'll come up and want you to sign a record. And I'll be like, I don't have any business signing these records whatsoever. But from the very jump, they made it a point to include me in this family, which is really what it is. It's a collective of incredible musicians and creatives and geniuses, really,
right.
Looking at what they do. But it's also a family, and I think that I think was as important, if not more important, because, I could have lost my mind, especially during the pandemic. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in the middle of a city that I don't know and amongst a bunch of motherfuckers that I don't know, whatever. And without having those guys, you know what I'm saying, on those threads, I could have went crazy. So
I was happy. I was happy for you though. I mean, I'm sorry that it was during the pandemic, but I was like, oh shit, Stro's part of the Roots now. I was like, listen, man, I know you know your worth, and and everybody in that collective brings something to the table. Period. And I know that. I know that. But I was truly happy. I was like, man, he belongs. Like, it's a continuance of greatness. You know what I'm saying? And I know by you joining them, like, I mean, I was like, wow, like, man, like, Stro is part of the Roots now. Crazy. Like, I don't know, man.
It's great.
This is why I love doing this. This is why I love doing this show, man. Because
just geeking out.
I am, man, because I'm and it's okay, man. Like I said a million times, man, I'm inspired by everybody, by yourself, by everybody that comes on the show. I'm truly inspired. And you have to be that way. You have to humble yourself
Absolutely.
and be and just be inspired and continue, as I said before, to be the student. Instead of
Absolutely.
trying to
Every day.
master shit,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, that's that.
What's next for Stro, man?
Ooh,
What's cooking?
Oh, he has La Villa. You released La Villa, which was
Oh yeah. That was something that got. It's funny. Like that project was actually finished at the same time as the James Brown project was finished. During the pandemic, pretty much. But it took a while for that to unravel because, anytime you get labels behind certain situations, the James Brown thing was relatively painless, but this was a little different. I was working with different people for this situation. And it took a while just to get things in order. It finally did. I had I had the best kind of liaison through the situation, a guy that I was communicating with based out of the UK, who really kind of helped push that forward. But I don't know. There's, the thing about being in this band and being amongst these group of individuals is, there's all so multifaceted and they're into a lot of different shit. The two patriarchs and specifically with Tariq and Amir.
Yeah.
And they seem to encourage, doing a lot of different things. So, there's a lot of things, the things I want to try. There's a lot of things I want to kind of like evolve and, I could easily just put out another kind of beat tape, but I don't know. I kind of want to do something a little bit more artistic. I don't know what that is yet.
Right.
But yeah, I'm in my think tank about what to do next. I do know, that I do kind of miss like just kind of doing like sets. So I want to, but again, even with that, I want that to evolve a little bit as well, where I'm doing kind of more focused and kind of curated sets.
Right.
Or maybe they're kind of more theme oriented, or at least, just kind of more thought out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, just kind of along the lines of that, just kind of an evolution of what I've done before is kind of where I'm headed.
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, are you cooking up? Is the question. That's
the thing.
Yeah.
I haven't, if I'm being completely honest, I haven't been cooking a lot lately over the last, but that's been intentional.
Okay.
I took some time off. I took some time off for a while just to kind of get myself right. I think I say it all the time. Like, if you were a person that wasn't affected by what went on during the pandemic, then we're different types of people. And that's fine. We can be different types of people. Everybody lost a lot of people. I personally got pretty sick as well on top of losing some people. Yeah. And that kind of fucked me up for a minute.
It did myself as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a weird thing. I don't think I've ever had to think about my mortality in the way that I thought about it during that particular sickness.
We were living in a movie for real.
Yeah. And I've never had issues with migraines, and I've never had issues with breathing. And to have both of those things become an issue simultaneously to the point where it debilitated me. And like, I missed like 2 months of work. Like, I wasn't on the road with the band. I wasn't on Fallon. I didn't do anything for a good 2 months because I was down pretty bad,
Whoa. Okay.
And, so it took a minute for me to kind of like rehab and get to a point to where I could stand up for longer than 5-10 minutes without feeling like I was going to pass out or, and get a debilitating migraine. So yeah, it was thick for a minute. Yeah. And so I remember I worked myself up to being able to do, cause the Roots tour heavy every summer. That's the most time that we have off of Fallon.
Yeah.
And, they did a string of shows without me. And I was like, listen, I had it circled on my calendar. At the end of this summer, y'all are doing Japan. Fucking love Japan. I'm not missing it.
Yeah.
So I made it a point to, kind of switch up my diet.
Yeah.
To, my goal every day was just to do something, whether it was going for a walk.
Right.
Until I felt like I could work in the breathing, till the migraines were less. So, taking care of myself physically, and I got myself physically up until a point where I was able to do that Japan run, which was a good like 4 or 5 dates or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember I came home from that just so filled with gratitude and also appreciation of not only what I was able to do and the shape I was able to get in and the choices I was making as far as my diet, but a real appreciation for my circle, the people that I had around me, because those guys held me down and they were the most encouraging. And, they looked out for me and they still do. And I think, what I wanted to do was, I did kind of my own form of therapy without going to a therapist where, kind of from ground up, I wanted to make sure that I was good.
Yeah.
And kind of digging in things in my past and digging in who I was and all my shortcomings and everything. And I wanted to make sure that I was making music for the right reason. So I stopped making music for a while.
Okay.
And just kind of worked on my own kind of mental health as well as my physical health. And that's been kind of over the course of the last year or two. Me just trying to get in the right place mentally and physically to make sure that, music wasn't something that I was just hiding behind,
Yeah. Oh man.
And something that
Wow.
I was using as a shield. You know what I mean?
Damn, Stro. That hits home, man. I mean, especially with a person like myself. Like,
Word.
I've gotten to conversations. I'm not gonna say with who, but and they say that, you know, I've always hidden behind like actually arguments, and how I've hidden behind a facade of music and trying to be a person. And man, just to know that you went through that, I have not gone through that yet, man. Man, you
I had
just
it pretty bad too. I had it bad, not as bad as that, but you know. Yeah. My mom got it bad, man. She was, damn. I don't know if you knew that, right?
Well, no. I'm not talking about. I'm like.
Oh, you talking about something? I'm sorry.
No. Shouts to Mom Dukes, Mama React. But I'm talking about like mentally. Oh yeah. Like about.
But listen, it's all relative though, because I mean, like, you know, it was interesting to be going through something like that physically, and realize how much of it was affecting me. Because I mean, I was depressed. Like I don't think I realized it at the time, but I'm sitting at home. I'm not as physically able as I'm used to being. Yeah. I'm having troubles breathing. I'm having these debilitating migraines. I'm sitting, like, there was a couple of times where I'm sitting there and I'm watching a stream of a root show that I'm not at. And I'm watching somebody filling in for me, you know, and I'm in this home by myself. Yeah. You know, like I said, so all of that takes its toll, and you start to think dark thoughts. You start to think just like negative thoughts about yourself. And, you know, I wasn't in a space that felt conducive to being creative, even if I wanted to be, or even if I was physically able to. So, I mean, it's all relative. And I think it was interesting that realizing that was also kind of what pulled me out of it, because I think in the moments that I started, I remember it like, and I remember I went through it. I got like a treadmill and a little workout area in the basement. Yeah. And when I first started trying to get myself right, it was really difficult. I couldn't walk, like I said, for longer than 5 minutes before the migraines would start, and I had trouble breathing. Man. And I would just go and sit down. And so I remember the first, you know, I tried to go back to work a few times. And, you know, in the summers, we would work like 4 days a week and take 2 episodes on Thursday. So we'd have Fridays off. Yeah. And I remember thinking like, okay, if I can make it through an entire week, I'm good. And I couldn't do it. The most that I could work was like maybe 2 days a week before I felt worn out, and needed pretty much the rest of the week to kind of recover and get back to normal. But I remember I got to a point where I was feeling good, and then I had this whack ass kind of attack. And I remember I got home and I was so mad. I was so frustrated. Yeah. And I remember I went down to my basement and I got on the treadmill, and it was almost like I was trying to kill myself, like not literally, but I was on the treadmill and I was walking until like my eyes were closed. I couldn't see. My head hurt so bad. I was breathing super heavy. I couldn't really breathe. And I walked for probably 5 minutes longer than I should have. And I sat down on the edge of my treadmill to recollect myself. And it hurt. It was painful. Yeah. But slowly but surely my breath came back. Slowly but surely the migraine went away. And it was in that moment that I realized that, okay, me getting back to a point to where I want to be is as much about it being physical as it is mental. Yes. Like I need to get my mental in a place that's right as well as my physical if I'm going to get right, you know, and that was kind of a lesson for me. And it's something that's kind of stayed with me ever since. Cause I mean, even days like, you know, I had a day last week where, you know, you just kind of, everybody has their days where you're not on top of your game, and you just might be just in a mood. You just be in one of the moods, and you have to stop and collect yourself and go, okay, I'm having a day. And, you know, whether it's because I physically don't feel well or I mentally don't feel well, I got to make both of those work together. Yeah. I got to get my mental on the same page as my physical. You know what I mean? And that's, you know, that stayed with me.
I mean, like, man, I mean, just realizing what you just said right now, you know, like, it's got to be tough that sometimes, I mean, you're in a prolific group, a legendary group. You're on, you know, Jimmy Fallon show. Like you always have to be on. I mean, do you think like it was just like anxiety, like just like crowding in?
Yeah, well, I mean, lucky for me, I mean, I don't have it like Jimmy has it. I don't even have it like an Amir or Tariq has it. But I mean, even those guys have missed work. You know, when Amir misses out, I fill in for him. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's eye opening where I kind of go, yeah, this is a lot. Yeah. This is a lot. Like my man's like position here because, you know, he's the band leader. Amir's the band leader. And you have to be aware of not only what's going on with the band, on top of the fact that you have to be drumming well enough. I have to be playing well enough.
Right.
Which is me basically doing my best Amir impression. And then you also have to be aware, again, of what's going on. It's a TV show. So I have to be aware of what Jimmy is doing, what Higgins is doing, you know, if something happens with one of the guests and all of a sudden they go into a song. Does the band know this song? Do I know this song? Like, you know, do we jump right in? And that's the thing that is a blessing with those guys. Because, I mean, like, you know, to be in a band of that caliber, you know, 9 times out of 10, they got me, you know. You know, that's... You know, I remember there was a week when Amir was out when he was up for the Oscar, and he was in LA that entire week. And there was a couple moments where I remember I'm sitting on that bandstand and I'm almost panicked because I'm going, oh shit, do they know? And without even thinking about it, like they picked up, they knew exactly what to do. I started playing along with them, and I remember thinking like, wow, yeah, like. Because, you know, I'm the newest member, so I'm the only person that's been there. I'm the person that's been there the least amount of time.
Right.
They've been there long enough that they know what's going on. It's just a matter of me cueing them when to play and then also knowing what to play.
Live production, like, it's just a totally different animal, man. Like, dude, like the fucking anxiety that I would have, like, communicating with, you know, the live producer, you know, for the camera switches, and then making sure that everything that I play is directly on cue with, you know, the person who's telling me what to play this, play that, don't play this, you know, I pressed the wrong fucking button at the wrong time. You know, the music had to stop when the puck dropped or when the ball was kicked, you know, for kickoffs and stuff like that. So like, you know, if I wasn't paying attention and the music played for like a half a second longer than it should be, like they were getting fined. Like they were getting fined. So like, and that was on me. So like it was nerve wracking, bro. Like, so I like applaud you guys, man, because that live, no, thank you, bro. That live. Well,
and for me, I had to take into account that, you know, Jimmy and Amir, they play off of each other. They know each other really well. There's a whole second hand, like there's a whole like other vocabulary that they have that I don't have with Jimmy. So it's like, you know, there was a lot of me kind of feeling around and even a rhythm to it. Like, you know, certain bits that we do every single week, it's a different thing when you're the person that has to count that off.
Yeah, right.
You know, you have to know when to start counting that off so it doesn't come in too late and it doesn't create this air of silence.
That's right.
And not come in too early so that you cut him off. Like it's a whole science to it. Kind of similar to what you're saying, where if you don't get it right, the timing right or whatever, it kind of throws everything off.
Yeah, it was all timing, man.
But you're the illest producer in the Roots.
Clap it up for that.
Yes. I'm sorry, man, but hey, the Roots has Stro Elliot. That's what I thought. I was like, ooh, I'm thinking about future projects. Period. That's what I mean. I'm gonna keep it a stack, man. I was like, he's in the group. I'm happy for that, but I was like, oh hell, like man, like. That's a whole different another chamber, you know, because you play. I mean, you play and man, for the equipment nerds.
Oh yeah. Before we go, go ahead. I got a nerd question too, but you go first.
Okay.
No. Go ahead, react because you're the equipment nerd. I'm the dummy over here with primitive equipment.
Do you have a push 3 yet, or are you still on a push 2?
I do.
You have a push 3.
I have a push 3. I haven't really implemented it into my workflow yet, just because one, it is set up a little different.
Yes, it is.
And two, its dimensions are different. So all the cases and Pelican cases that I have to lug my gear on, it doesn't fit the same. So,
it's different.
And even with my setup on Fallon, I would have to kind of move some shit around to make it fit. Even in that setup. So I haven't implemented it into my regular workflow yet.
This motherfucker is silently he want to be a finger drummer. That's why I know he just reacts one a bit.
Nah.
Listen, man.
I would love to learn how to play the actual drums, but like you said,
as long as listen, I'm telling you, people,
as long as my fingers aren't going like this, Eddie won't mind.
Yes,
don't
it's just like it's just like
he don't play that shit.
It just looks crazy. You got to be like Stro. Stro's just
yeah, it's because it's the layout. It's the 64 pad layout, man. That's what it is.
It's the ergonomically friendly layout.
That's right.
It is. It just looks. It looks like. And it looks. I know. I was like, look at him, man. This is what I'm talking about. Like all you fucking finger drummers, man. outside of JT. Because that's the little bro.
Well, I will say this. I will say this. I gotta give because like I said, it was something I used as a production tool, but I didn't realize it was like a thing until I saw Jeremy Ellis do it.
Jeremy Ellis.
I didn't really think it was a thing because the illest drummer on pads I ever saw was why am I forgetting my man's name? We were just David Haynes. I don't know if you're familiar with him. David Haynes is a guy, I think he got endorsed by Akai, so I think he uses mostly MPCs.
Okay.
But David Haynes was the first person that I saw play drums on pads like a drummer.
Who's the guy that sits in fancy cars and in the back seat and plays drums? Is it Jay something? I don't know.
Jay Black, you talking about?
Say it again?
You talking about Jay Black?
Yes.
Yeah. That's my guy too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and everybody's different. Everybody's different. That's the thing that I tell people.
Shouts to Jay Black. He gets
because he's nice, and I think everybody, because people will ask me, like if I want to do this, if I want to learn how to finger whatever. I was like, well, first of all, sit down, get you a pad, sit down, and just do what feels comfortable. But if you want to learn, if you're interested in learning somebody's style in particular, then yes, go follow the Beats by Jay Black. Melodics has programs or whatever. I've worked with them. Yeah. And put together a couple of things or whatever. There's a slew of people like who have, whatever. If you want to, because listen, if maybe you want to play finger drums like A-Rap music and then whatever. If so, then yes, pay attention to the way that they do things and follow them.
Jeremy Ellis is a beast.
Yeah, Jeremy, and that's the thing, because Jeremy used to be in the band when we toured, and I used to watch him, before I joined the band, and just kind of be in awe of the fact, because and it makes sense. He was a piano player. He's like ambidextrous, so he does, he uses both hands really well.
I don't sound ignorant. Is it the white guy with the curly hair?
Yes.
Yeah,
like Kenny G.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But when he was still in the band, I remember I used to watch him. I used to watch, kind of his layout and the way he did, because his style of play is unique. What I mean?
He's nasty. Yep.
Yeah. So it just depends on the way that you want to play and what's comfortable for you. Everybody has their own style. Yeah. My style works for me both, like I said, kind of ergonomically because it's really comfortable, and because of the fact that if I'm looking at it as like a drum kit, everything in its placement has to make sense for me.
The pocket is crazy, and sometimes I think like yeah, I mean, well, you're a drummer. I'm not a drummer, but you're a drummer, and I'm obviously by listening to all your works, and your drum work, even when you play early on, when I listened to the pocket was crazy, and sometimes I think that like less is more. That's what
Absolutely.
It is.
Yeah,
for me.
I mean, and that's kind of. I'm not going to say that's the way I was taught, because it wasn't like anybody sat there and taught me. But if I look at the drummers that I listened to and that I liked, they were what you would consider more pocket players. Like, sure, you can have gospel chops and do fills and do all this stuff, and that's crazy, and that was. But I mean, I was attracted to the groove. I was attracted to what the drummers were doing in the pocket they were laying under what was going on with the band, and so that was always going to be where I lived.
Man, before we go, who do you want to work with?
Who do I want to work with?
Yes, because you're a producer, and I know, man. I mean, come on, man. I mean, is there a wish list Other than Tariq. Because Tariq, come on, Tariq is Tariq, and he's Black Thought is the top 5 dead or alive. But man, or
interesting, man.
It could be MC or producer collab.
Right. There is, being an overall music nerd about, about everything. There's a ton of people that I would just like to be in a lab with.
Right.
And just contribute to. Even as nerdy as, Jacob Collier and the stuff that he puts together, it would be fun to just be in that particular world.
Jacob Collier's dope. Yeah.
Yeah, he's crazy. But I'm such a fan of there's a lot of really incredible vocalists. And I've been spoiled. Being able to, sit and play with an artist like Yeba and her incredible voice.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of producers that I would like to, it's funny. The entire time I lived in LA, I love an Amon Omari, but we never collaborated on anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
even as much.
Yeah, he's so fucking dope.
He's dope, man. And shit. But
he's super. He is super to the left.
Yeah, he's left. But I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. But there's so many, there's so many younger rappers and MC, and even I was getting into out West Coast, Tehran and Aomari. Were people who lived out west that I never worked with. The whole Chicago collective of Saba and No Name and all of them, they're so dope to me.
Oh my god. Yes.
And they don't. And this is what's crazy. I don't necessarily look at it as a wish list because I view that what they're doing is so dope that I'm they don't need my input. They don't need my help. They don't need they're dope all on their own. So there's a lot of people that I love that I don't necessarily put on a wish list with people to collaborate because I just love what they do. I just want them to continue doing what they're doing. But if there's an opportunity, obviously, if we're in a studio together, I would love to collaborate with them and so many other people.
Man, all right. So that leads me to my next question before we wrap up because I got questions for Stro Elliot. I do. Is there an 808 bag? Does Stro Elliot have an 808 bag?
An 808 bag.
Yeah, because most of us producers from our time period. I had an 808. You know what I'm saying? But with the music that you're hearing now, and the music that is present right now, is there an 808 Stro Elliot bag?
There could be. I have thought about it in particular with a couple artists that I was thinking about working with.
Okay.
That I would maybe dip into that bag with, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay. No, because I think about that. Just as a producer, React's very good with that. React's very good with house music. He's very good with actually everything. But I'm just a little bit more traditional with hard snapping snares and percussion, stuff like that. I just, for me, man,
listen, man. Anything is fair game. It always just depends on what the environment and what the situation is.
Yeah.
I've kind of spoiled myself in the sense that everything that I've worked on or released has always been of my own creation. So it's I sort of set the rules and the boundaries and without too much input from anybody else. But the moment that I decide to get in a lab with another artist or another, just the idea of collaborating at all.
Right.
If the vibe is right and it leans towards an 808, sure. If it leans towards a live drumming situation, if it leans towards any direction that's not my default, then I'm game.
And that's the only reason why I asked that because it's been this let's keep it a stack. This sound, the sound that's on radio right now, and I guess they can say the 808 sound, whatever. it's been around longer than any sound now. Like we started off on it, a Lint drum, obviously, and then there was the 808 early on with Molly, but it was a short period of time, and then we pushed on to MIDI production centers, like MPCs and sampling and stuff like that. But there was always like the 808 drums, like down south, whatever. But now, like I think since early 2000, it's ruled. It really has, like, current music. That's what I was talking about. Like, I think about these things about, okay, like, damn, like, man, they're still using these drums, like, like, and there are producers that do it very well. Like, there's Soundwave, I absolutely love. There's, obviously there's the Mike Wills and I mean, come on, man. There's a whole slew of them. I'm forgetting somebody, but I'm sure he will not be on our show because early on, who's the main? Exactly. Metro Boomin. Thanks, React. Yeah. I had a brain fart.
Oh, whoop. Sorry. My bad.
Look at that. I had a brain fart. Metro Boomin, all those producers, man. But that sound now,
it's not going anywhere though, bro.
It's been around. No, but it hasn't. It
hasn't left.
It hasn't evolved. I mean,
no. It hasn't.
I mean, I've heard guys use 808. The decay kicks and stuff like that with regular snares and shit like that, but it's here. It's been here for a long time. Yeah, and I feel like I don't know, man. Me personally, I'm kind of tired of it. I'm tired. I'm tired of the arpeggiated tracks and stuff like that. Sure. I mean, are you dumbing down your style though? To work with somebody. Okay.
No, okay. I think,
no way.
I don't think I could ever be a part of any situation where I'd have to.
I had to ask that question because I know a lot of producers who are just like, I'm about the bag. I'm just gonna.
He's on Jimmy Fallon, man. He ain't dumbing down shit.
But even if I wasn't, even if I didn't have that blanket of security,
you're not that. I don't think you're that type of producer.
Yeah, I think I've lived my entire life, and my entire career has been based upon doing things that felt good to me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man. Listen. I already know what kind of caliber producer that you are. I know. I don't know you personally as a person, but I know you're a man of integrity because I follow you. I'm not trolling you or anything like that. But I follow you, bro. But I just know, like, sometimes there are producers that just say, all right, I just want to get on, and then they compromise what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's why,
Yeah.
So
that's how you end up in that Diddy deposition.
You said it, not me. Ooh. Ouch.
Listen, man, like,
looking crazy.
No, I think
you wake up in the morning with your pants on your ankles.
Right before we started this interview, I sent you, Mr. EJ, and I sent Mr. Divine Drummer and DJ
Mint
Static
Plus.
and Mint Plus.
Yeah.
So we're all in our group chat. Yeah. I sent them the link, and I said, "This Fruit Pop is at it again."
Oh, he's at it again.
Listen, man, it was pretty much the same. It was pretty much the same thing in our circle. On the Roots thread could be a number of things. But, we all saw it, we all acknowledged it, and I think we were all very grateful at the things that we have avoided.
Yeah.
And because listen, the thing about it is it makes me sad as well. Like, I only really dipped into it a little bit. I read like a little bit of it.
It is very sad.
I tapped out because it was like, because what you have is you have the people at the top that absolutely need to be held accountable. But under that, all the other people, you have people that just wanted to make it. You have people who were following a dream and they saw an opportunity to work with some people that could make those dreams come true, and those people took advantage of that shit.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
And that shit makes me sad.
Yeah. It's not a good look at all.
And it's not cool waking up naked the next morning. It not to crack jokes after what you just said, but like on some real talk shit, B, like that, like listen, man, I don't know if it's true or not, but like I just know that the shenanigans, man, and it's not a good look, man. It's not a good look for our people. That's the sad part of it, Stro, and React. It's not a good look. Because I feel like, you know, as first of all, as a black man, like in the music business, why are we the only motherfuckers that have to fucking deal with this shit? Like, seriously, it's embarrassing. Did I have to turn around and look and see, okay, R. Kelly has a mansion with girls on that don't even know, that haven't seen each other on each side of a mansion, you know, like in a room, or a Puff, or anybody, or motherfuckers even beefing. It's terrible.
Well, see, that to me more specifically is the thing I have more of a problem with, because everything you said before is shit that you can find in other genres of music. I
know some freaky shit going on.
There's absolutely freaky shit. I mean, of course, the band Kiss's entire career, I feel like they released a book years ago, and it was like, I got like maybe 2 chapters into that book, and I was like, good Lord, like what is...
Or even Keith Richards' life, or even Anthony Kiedis.
Yeah.
Yo.
All of them. Wow. But specifically...
Scar Tissue.
Listen, but specifically, the beef thing bothers me, because it is the thing that keeps... It is the thing to me that keeps the genre in a state of adolescence. It is the thing that keeps the genre, like, people from the outside, because, you know, it's the crabs in a barrel situation with a lot of rappers, where they feel like there's not enough room for everyone.
That's the fuck I'm talking about right there, Stro. Talk about it. So you feel a need that as soon as you see somebody else shine, it doesn't matter how successful you are. If another motherfucker is over there shining, you can't, for whatever reason, let them live. Yeah. Because you feel like somehow that's coming out of your bag. You feel like somehow that's messing with who you are, what you are, and it's bullshit. It's bullshit. I mean, even like what was the recent shit? The laughable, like, what was it? The Nicki Minaj and
that was comical.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, for multiple reasons, but just like really, y'all, you got two of the most money makingest artists in the world, and y'all both females, and y'all both black females, and y'all going after each other for what, territory? Yeah,
it's stupid.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
That's what I look at every single time, man. Every single time when it comes to it's even actors, it's comedians, MC, rappers, even producers. It's just dumb. Like, come on, man. Like, that's the sad part where I look at, man. Like, and we created this shit.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, we set the trends. But man, we just can't seem to really get over it, man.
It takes too much energy and effort to hold a fucking grudge, especially when you're 39, 40 years old. Yeah. I'm 39.
Especially, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I got too much shit. You know what I mean? Like, I got there's too many fucking things going on in my head right now. I don't care about you, whether you like it or not. I'm not gonna beef with you. I don't have time for that shit. I just don't understand how people could exhaust their energy and like their mental capacity, like beefing with somebody else. Like, if you, you know what I mean?
And the
like,
sad thing about it is people just just feeding into it, and it's just
I don't know, man.
Just copy it, share it. And
Back in the day,
that's
it was,
why
I don't know. I guess it's different when you were younger. Like,
I like the way you move on social media though, Stro.
Listen, we didn't do it all episode, bro. That was real.
What the hell?
That was a bad one, bro.
Oh, you said like the I know, right? We're not playing a part.
No, we didn't play it all.
All right. That
We didn't do it all
pause.
episode, pal. But that was
Yeah.
No,
I like the way you move.
listen.
All right,
The
that was real.
The social media game for me is a love-hate relationship with it. What I think a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with social media, especially if you're older, because a lot of it seems really stupid. You see the young shit at TikTok, they get trends and people doing dances and let's do this, whatever, and this, whatever. But, IG specifically for me, because that's probably where I'm most active, was just the idea of creating a community, was the idea of,
That's right.
But during the pandemic specifically, it was the idea of being able to draw a line in the sand,
Yeah.
and then stand on the side that I wanted to stand on and identify with that so that people knew that where I stood, because it's really easy, especially in the context of, because I'm a person, I'm not a celebrity, but some of my friends are. But,
you're definitely.
So it's,
I mean, come on.
No. So it's really easy to say, oh, well, that guy, he's not worried about what we're worried about over here because he's over there with these celebrities. So, whatever.
All right.
So when I'm watching what everybody else is watching during the pandemic, and I'm as worried, I'm as frustrated, I'm as angry, I feel all the same things that everybody else is feeling. So I think, in the middle of all that sort of like self-medicating that I was doing, like therapy-wise, it was also important for me to establish my own voice and whether that means that I'm talking about the things that I'm seeing going on that were race related or in politics or just in the way that people are, kind of, playing themselves in period. And,
Right.
But also, whatever my brand of humor is, whatever my brand of observation is, it was important for me to leave some kind of footprint as to who I really was, just, for more out of fear that somebody else was going to define me,
Right.
other than me.
Right. No,
But I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
No. I mean, there's nobody that can do that because I see how you move. Pause. React.
I didn't say nothing.
Yeah.
But what you said, what you said before we go, what you said about being on social media and like building a community, it's tough because essentially that's what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to reach out to our people and our fans who listen to the show and build a community because at the end of the day, the music business is just, especially as artists, like I think it starts with building nowadays. If you want to be an independent artist and not rely on these DSPs, like Curtis King was speaking on last week, you have to build a community.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You have to, because that's and especially if you look at nowadays, what like there's not really a music industry. It doesn't feel like
That's right.
At least not in the way that it was.
No, not at all.
Yeah, man.
All that you really have is the community of motherfuckers that are like-minded in the way that you like to create art.
Exactly.
And so you might as well cultivate a scene or a community and move within that community.
That's right.
As powerfully as you can.
Yeah.
Even if you have ultimate goals of being like, well, I hope we all get signed or I hope we all do this or whatever. I don't think there's any labels that are looking at anything that's not this cultivated, kind of community or scene. So you might as well focus all your energy in that anyway.
That's right.
Man, Stro Elliot, man, like this has been great, man. We love you, brother.
Yeah.
We love your music, man. We look all things forward, moving forward. I'm looking for a Roots album with Stro Elliot.
He said it's coming. He said
It's in the works.
It's
in the works.
It's been in the works for a few years, apparently.
It has been in the works for quite a while.
It's gonna be crazy. I
sure
already
it will
know,
be.
man. But thank you so much, man, for coming out to the shop, brother.
Man, thanks for having me
Thank
again,
you,
man.
Thank you.